So, Chapter 7, ownership of real estate. Once again, the last chapter was about estates and land, which describe the amount and kind of interest that one has in real property. This chapter is going to be going over the type of ownerships. So, in this chapter, we're going to describe different forms of ownership and explain the differences between condos, co-ops, and timeshares and learn what they are. We're going to start off with the first form of ownership. It's tenancy in severalty. The root word is not several, it is sever, where your interests are severed from all others. They're cut off from all others. So, tenancy in severalty is sole ownership by one person or entity. Entity is a business. The owner is free to devise the property to anyone they like in a will, to their heirs, or devisees. All right. Everybody got that highlighted already there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have remember the chart to remember legal terminology. So above the word giving on page 120, above the word giving, write in capital letters OR, and then above the word receiving, write EE. So if you know what any of these root words are here, when they end in OR, that's the person that's giving whatever the root word is or whatever the product is, and the one that ends in EE is the one that's receiving whatever it is. Like devise. Devise is when you leave a property to someone in a will. So the devisor is the one that's leaving that property. That's the person who's named in the will to give you that property, to leave you that property. That's the person who makes the will. Um, and the devisee is the one named in the will to receive it, whatever it is they're leaving to you. Now, when we transfer ownership, we do so by grant. We grant the ownership from one person to the next. So the grantor is the one who's selling their property or giving it away, and the grantee is the buyer, is the one that's receiving it. A legacy is your personal property that you've amassed during your lifetime. So the legator is the one who gives that personal property, and the legatee is the one that receives it. A lease is where an owner intentionally transfers possession of their property to another person
Recording in progress.
who's the tenant for a limited period of time, um, and uh, and they transfer all of their rights in their property, the right of possession, the whole bundle of rights minus the right to sell the property, of course, to a tenant. So the lessor is the one who gives the lease, and the lessee is the one who receives the lease. Now, the mortgage has an asterisk next to it because it's probably the opposite of what you think it is. The mortgage itself is a promise to pay. It's not a loan. That's why we have two words. We say a mortgage loan because a mortgage in itself is just a promise to pay. And banks don't make promises, they make loans. So it is the borrower who is the mortgagor, and the mortgagee is the lender. Mortgage has two O's in it, borrower has two O's in it. Mortgagee has two E's in it, lender has two E's in it. Or you could just remember it this way: the mortgagor is the borrower. Or you could sing it. It rhymes. The mortgagor is the borrower. Then you don't even need to think about it. You could just sing it. Okay. Who's the mortgagor? The borrower. So what are they giving? Who's the mortgagor? It's the borrower. It's not the bank, not the lender, because they're giving a promise. That's what a mortgage is, the promise to pay. Now, what is the promise that the borrower is making to the bank? They're saying, lend me your money, and according to the terms that we agree upon, I will pay you back. So we'll put all those terms in a document called the note, which lays out all the financing information. the interest rate, the monthly payment, the term, how many payments. So the mortgage is that promise to pay that says, lend me your money and I'll pay you back according to the terms in the note. And if I do not, you can, through the process of foreclosure, get ownership of the property, sell it at auction, and use the proceeds to pay off the debt. So that's the promise that's being made in a mortgage. The mortgagor is the borrower. That's the way to remember it, okay? And so pretty much this is how words that end in OR work. As long as you know what the root word is, if it ends in OR, that's the person that's giving whatever they're talking about. And if it ends in EE, that's the one that's receiving it. Okay, so here's just another little chart I made of the same thing that explains what a lease and a mortgage is. Okay, just like I just verbally did it to you, I told you what devise, grant, legacy, lease, and mortgages. Well, lease, here we go. It's a contract where an owner of land intentionally conveys most of their rights and interest as defined in a lease to another person, the tenant, for a limited period of time as defined in a lease. A lease is an intangible asset that is personal property. The mortgage is the promise to pay made by the borrower to pay back the lender according to the terms in the note. Banks don't make promises, they make loans. And if the borrower fails to make the payments or abide by the mortgage terms, the lender can foreclose to regain ownership of the property pledged as collateral, sell it at auction, and then use the proceeds to pay off the debt. Look, even lenders misuse these terms often. But here, let's take a look.
Looking sharp, Len. Who's the lucky lady?
I'm going to the bank to discuss a mortgage.
See, you need a loan, you put on a suit, you go crawling to the bank. This is how I dress to get a mortgage.
Well, you don't get a mortgage, you give a mortgage. In exchange, the bank gives you a loan, the lender gives you a loan. So even on this LendingTree commercial, they're misusing the term. They're not out there trying to educate the public, but on the documents, you need to know who the players are. Who's the mortgagor? Who's the mortgagee?
I just go to LendingTree. I calculate how much home I can afford. I get multiple offers to compare side by side. And the best part is, the banks come crawling to me.
Everything you need to get a better mortgage. Clothing optional. LendingTree. When banks compete, you win.
Okay.
Awkward.
Awkward.
Looking.
All right, so here are the forms. Let me shut off that computer audio sharing because that was making the audio choppy yesterday. Okay, so here are the forms of ownership. We have tenancy and severalty, which the root word is sever, meaning that your interests are severed from all others. So it's sole ownership by one person or entity. Then we have tenancy by the entirety. This is ownership by married couples. Then we have tenancy in common. It's the default form of ownership when you have two or more owners not married to each other. It's the default type of ownership with two or more owners not married to each other. And then we have a joint tenancy. A joint tenancy, you have to specify you wish to take ownership in this form. Otherwise, the default form of ownership is tenancy in common with two or more owners. The only benefit to creating a joint tenancy is the right of survivorship. So if one of the co-owners dies, the other surviving co-owner or owners automatically equally split the shares of the owner who died. In order to create a joint tenancy, you have to specify you wish to take ownership in this form at the beginning. You need to have 4 unities in common, which we're going to learn about. And then we're going to learn about how to terminate joint tenancies. And, well, the only benefit to having a joint tenancy, I just let the cat out of the bag and told you it's the right of survivorship. Now, we're going to learn about each one of these, and you're going to know the details about them and how they work. But if you get a question on exam that asks you, how would you advise that somebody take, what form of ownership that they should take, you would not. So even if one of these answers fits perfectly, You would not advise someone on what form of ownership to take because that constitutes legal advice and we're not attorneys. But if the question on the exam that you get asks you what form of ownership would this be, well, that's a little bit different. Then we could identify the right answer. You see, it lies in the question. If they say, how would you advise, which form of ownership would you advise that the buyer take the ownership in if this was the scenario? Even if you know it, your answer should be none of the above because you don't give legal advice. You don't advise people what form of ownership to take. Attorneys do, right? But if it asks you, what form of ownership would this be in this scenario? Well, that's a little bit different, okay? Tricky. All right, so let's do some highlights here for tenancy in common to know the details of what we're going to need to know. It's a default form of ownership, 2 or more people not married to each other. Each owner has an undivided interest in the entire property. You can't physically tell which side is mine, which side is yours. If we're 50-50 owners, I'm 50% owner in the entire property. And each owner can hold unequal shares of ownership. In tenancy in common, each owner can sell their ownership shares on their own without the other's permissions. So they could convey, mortgage, or transfer that interest without the consent of the other owners. And upon death of one of the tenants in common, well, they can leave it in their will to their heirs or devisees. Now, if a tenant in common wants to dissolve their co-ownership and the other side does not, you could always take them to court. You don't need to be stuck owning with them. You could try to sell your ownership shares on your own, but that could be difficult. And if you can't do that, you could ask your co-owner partner to buy you out. If they don't have the money to or don't want to, you're not stuck owning it. You could take them to court in what's known as a partition proceeding. Partition is something that separates a room, right? It cuts the room in half. Well, a partition proceeding in court is one where you sell the property. Well, the judge will first take a look and see if the property can be physically divided. And if that's not possible, they're going to order the property sold, and then you divide the profits, the proceeds, according to your ownership interest. Now, New Jersey, a conveyance of 2 or more persons not married to each other creates a tenancy in common unless otherwise stated in the deed. You have to specifically state you wish to take ownership in another form. So the tenant's shares would be equal unless otherwise described. So if you're putting up 75% of the cash and I'm putting up 25% of the cash for us to buy a building, you're putting up most of the money. If you don't state in the deed that you're 75% owner, then we're 50-50. That's all that's saying. So you guys got these highlights on page 120 and 121? And you wrote above or next to their tenancy in common that it is the default form of ownership.
So is it like form name is default form?
It is the default form of ownership when you have 2 or more owners not married to each other. When you buy property together, you'll automatically be tenants in common. That's what we mean by default. Unless you specify that you wish to take ownership in another way, you're going to be taking ownership as tenants in common. Okay? All right, so here I put a slide together with all that information that for tenants in common. Default form of ownership, 2 or more owners, people, or entities not married to each other automatically creates a tenancy in common, or a TIC. In the commercial real estate world, they refer to these as TICs, They love their acronyms. Unless otherwise specified in the deed that the ownership is to be taken in another form. So a corporation can be a partner with a partial ownership interest in a property under a tenancy in common. Owners can have unequal ownership shares of interest, say 25% for one owner and 75% for the other if they put that ownership, that money into it, right? But if you don't specify that the ownership is not equal, then it's going to be 50-50. You have to specify that at the time you buy it in the deed. Owners can devise their interest. That means to leave it by will to anyone upon their death. And they could sell their interest without the consent of the other co-owners. However, be cautious if you're the real estate agent trying to help only one of several co-owners sell just their interest and not the entire property, because this could be classified as a security. And securities, if you're dealing in securities, you need to have special licensing to deal in securities. And the property would need to be registered as a security with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the State of New Jersey, and the Real Estate Commission. Well, not the Real Estate Commission. SEC, the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, and possibly the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. Owners have an undivided interest in the entire property, so that you cannot physically distinguish. If we're 50-50 owners, it's not like, well, that's my side of the building and this is your side of the building. Or the first floor is mine, the second floor is yours. It doesn't work like that. You can't. I'm 50% owner of the entire property. You can't physically distinguish which 50% is mine or yours. And all owners have an that's part of that. Unless you buy out your partner's interest, you're never going to own it in severalty. Unless you buy them out or they happen to leave it to you in a will, you'll never be the sole owner of that property. So when one co-owner wants to sell and the others do not, you could ask them to buy you out. You could sell your interest on your own, but that may be difficult. And you can partition the property. Or you could partition the property, take them to court, have a judge see if it can be physically partitioned, and if that's not possible, they'll order the property sold. That's what a partition court proceeding is. Okay, so that's a form of involuntary alienation, isn't it? Because a judge is ordering somebody to sell the property when they don't want to. All right. Joint tenancy. You have to specify you wish to take ownership in this form. So it's two or more people, no corporations here. You cannot have an entity or corporation be ever a joint tenant. Only people can be joint tenants, not entities. Corporations can never own a property as a joint tenant. So joint tenants, when there's two or more people, not entities, can choose to own property as joint tenants. The main feature of joint tenancy is it carries the right of survivorship. It's the only benefit to having this type of ownership, is when one of the co-owners dies, the surviving co-owner or owners automatically equally split the shares of the owner who died. That's why a corporation can never be a joint tenant. Corporations don't die, people do. Corporation, CEO dies, they just replace him with someone else and the corporation lives on, right? Corporations live on until they're formally dissolved. So a corporation can never be a joint tenant.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can you just go back to last page? What was the page number? I didn't highlight this one.
This is not a page in the book,
Okay.
right here. These,
Okay.
these are the notes that I gave you here. Okay. This was what you highlighted.
Yeah,
Okay. And then this was my notes on it.
okay.
And then this was for the joint tenancy.
Yeah, give me a second. Choose. Benefit to owning. That's it. Joint. I'm good now. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
So there are 4 unities required in order to create a joint tenancy. That's TTIP is an acronym to remember it. The unity of time, title, interest, and possession. If you don't have those 4 unities in common, then you know it's not a joint tenancy. So to create a joint tenancy in New Jersey, you have to first off expressly state in the deed that you wish to take ownership in that form. Because if you don't, you're tenants in common. So you have to have 4 unities in common to create a joint tenancy. TTIP, time, title, interest, and possession. I don't know. So in this print of the book, they scrambled the order here. They didn't put it in time, title, interest, and possession. They put it in a different order. So just write that acronym there. TTIP, 4 unities. Time, title, interest, and possession. The unity of time. All joint tenants must acquire their interest at the same time. The unity of title. All joint tenants must acquire their interest using the same deed to convey that interest. The unity of interest. All joint tenants hold equal ownership interest. You can't have one that's 25% owner and one that's 75%. All owners have to have an equal ownership share. And then the unity of possession, where you can't physically distinguish which portion of the property belongs to who. You have a percentage of ownership, you own that percentage of the entire property. So there I put my definition there of possession, what that possession actually means, because a lot of people get mixed up on that. All right, so let me know when you get all those notes down.
Give me a second. Mm-hmm. The last one, possession, that's your note, right? Means you cannot physically distinguish with part of.
Yes. Yes.
You should write it down, right?
Everybody good? Anybody still taking notes?
Yeah.
Okay. So here is a slide for everything about joint tenancy. 2 or more owners, usually not married to each other. A corporation can never be a joint tenant because of its perpetual existence. Corporation will never die until it's formally dissolved. To create a joint tenancy, it must be specified in the deed that ownership is to be taken in that form at the time you purchase. Otherwise, by default, it's tenancy in common. The only benefit to having a joint tenancy is the right of survivorship. So that means that if one of the co-owners dies, the surviving co-owner or owners automatically equally split the shares of the owner who had died. And therefore, you can't leave it in a will like tenants in common can. Because the right of survivorship, your surviving co-owners will automatically get it, right? All owners must have equal ownership shares. There's no unequal ownership shares. It has to be 50-50, 33 and a third, a quarter, whatever, depending on how many owners you have. Each owner can sell their interest without the other owner's consent, just like with tenancy in common. However, this could destroy the joint tenancy, converting those new owners' interests to a tenant in common because they didn't have the unity of time or title. So if there's 3 or more owners, the original remaining 2 owners will still be joint tenants with each other, but the new owner, who's the third person sold their interest to, didn't get their ownership at the same time or by the same deed, so they will be a tenant in common while the other 2 owners will be joint tenants. Owners can partition the property as well, and it is possible to convert a joint tenancy to tenancy in severalty as all the owners die off. Okay. So here, we have 3 owners, equal ownership shares. What form of ownership is this? You have 3 owners, equal ownership shares. What form of ownership is this? Well, I didn't give you enough information. This could be a joint tenancy, but it could also be a tenancy in common, right? Because tenants in common can have equal ownership shares as well. It's a joint tenancy, you have to. But just by looking at the chart here where you see there's 3 owners, owner A, owner B, and owner C, and they all have equal ownership shares, I can't tell you what form of ownership that is unless I ask more questions. Like, can you leave it in a will to somebody? If the answer is no, well, it's joint tenancy. And why is that? The right of survivorship. Right? So you have to specify you wish to take ownership as joint tenants. Otherwise, the default form of ownership is tenancy in common. And this would be joint tenancy if you specify you wish to take ownership in that form. Now, let's just say owner B dies. What happens to their shares? What happens if owner B dies here? What happens to their ownership here? What happens to their slice of the pie?
Doesn't it come between the A and C? It'd be 50-50?
It does. It gets split between
That I was going to say.
A and C. You just draw a line straight down the middle, and they automatically equally split the shares of the owner who dies. Doesn't even need to go through probate. Now, what happens if C dies?
The A becomes
Same thing. Same thing.
A now is the sole owner, so they now own it in severalty, and now they can leave it in their will to their heirs because there's no more joint tenancy. You follow? How about this scenario? You have owner A, B, and C. Nobody dies, but owner C, they sell their interest to this new guy, D. But D did not get their ownership now at the same time or using the same deed. So owner D is a tenant in common with A and B. However, A and B still remain as joint tenants with each other. So if B dies now, A gets all their interest. And now there's no more joint tenancy. They're both tenants in common now. Now either one of them can leave their ownership shares in a will to their heirs. Follow? So that little scenario that I just spoke out, I also have written up here at the tops of these slides. So if you want to go through the slides for a little review, or just watch the video of the recordings of the slides.
Give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Snap.
Were you getting the other screenshots too?
Yes, okay.
All right, so now we have tenancy by the entirety. That's by married couples. Tenancy by the entirety is a special tenancy between spouses, so it's married couples. The book used to say between husband and wife, but before he left office, Governor Christie signed gay marriage into law in New Jersey, so now it's between married couples. So now gay people get to experience the same miseries as the rest of us. It's a joke. It's a joke. Okay. So the owners must be married. They have to be spouses when they receive the property. The owners have the right of survivorship just like joint tenants do. If your spouse dies, that primary marital residence that you guys were living in, your surviving spouse automatically gets it. There is no right to partition. Yeah, if you want to move, you don't take your spouse to court to get a judge to force them to sell the property. You guys got other issues if you need to do that. You got other marital issues you need to work out. Now, right?
Pero can be voluntary. She can sell to me the interest.
It's your wife. It's your main marital residence.
Yes.
You both have an interest in the property. Nobody needs to sell anything to anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in New Jersey, a conveyance to a couple who are legally married to each other, or registered domestic partners, or members of a civil union in New Jersey, creates a tenancy by the entirety unless the deed expressly states otherwise. In New Jersey, couples 62 years of age or older can register for a domestic partnership if they meet certain requirements. And when a couple gets divorced, the tenancy by the entirety is automatically broken. They become tenants in common. So no more right of survivorship. So New Jersey does not recognize common law marriages. Common law marriages is when you live long enough with somebody, your partner, that people recognize and know you as a couple. You could just say that you're married and it'll be honored without going through the formal ceremonies.
Oh, wow.
But New Jersey doesn't have that.
Okay.
In New Jersey, you need to get married if you want to be married. Okay.
Yeah.
So under New Jersey law, a couple in civil union are entitled to the same rights as a married couple are as well. Okay. So here you go. Tenancy entirety. Ownership by married couples, primary marital residence if married after May 28, 1980, or to all properties if married before, with the dower and courtesy rights.
Mhm.
Owners have the right of survivorship. So when your spouse dies, the other one gets the house. New Jersey does not have common law marriage. When a couple divorces, ownership reverts to the tenancy in common. So when you're no longer married, you get divorced, you're now a tenancy in common, and you no longer have the right of survivorship. There's no right to partition while you're married, only after you divorce, because if you're a tenant in common, you have the right to partition, but married couples don't. You need to work out your issues or get divorced. Okay. And then a corporation cannot be a tenant by the entirety. Corporations can never be a tenant by the entirety. Okay. Corporations don't get married. People do. So a corporation can never be a tenant by the entirety. So tenants by the entirety do have the right of survivorship, but they cannot partition a property. Not while they're married. Only if they divorce and then they become tenants in common, and tenants in common have the right of survivorship. Okay, so tenancy by the entirety, you do not have the right to partition, the property. Okay, so in review, tenancy in severalty is ownership by one person or entity. Tenancy by the entirety, that's ownership by married couples who have the right of survivorship, but not the right to partition a property. Tenants in common, that is the default form of ownership, two or more people not married to each other. So that's why when people get divorced, it goes from a tenancy entirety to it becomes a tenancy in common. And then you have the right to partition at that point. Tenants in common, can be owned by multiple people. It's a default form of ownership, or a corporation can be a partial owner in a tenant in common.
And it's not in New Jersey,
What's that?
the common marriage.
No. No, we're talking about
Does not.
tenancy in common. Tenancy in common is different from common law marriage. Yeah, no.
Oh,
Common law
oh,
marriage is not allowed in New Jersey. Tenancy in common, though, is one of the forms of ownership when you have multiple people who are owners of a property but not married to each other. And joint tenancy, you have to specify you wish to take ownership in this form. Two or more people, a corporation can never own as a joint tenant because of their perpetual existence. So only people can be joint tenants if you specify you wish to take ownership at the time that you guys are taking ownership. You have to specify you wish to take ownership in as a joint tenant. And then you all have to have 4 unities in common: the unity of time, title, interest, and possession. If you have all 4 of those unities in common, then you can become a joint tenant. But what is the only benefit to joint tenancy? It's the right of survivorship. And what is that? When the co-owner dies, the surviving co-owners automatically equally split the shares of the owner who died, until there's only one last man standing, so to speak, right?
mhm.
And then at that point they would own as severalty. So real estate licensees, once again, should never advise someone as to which form of these ownership that you should take ownership in. That would constitute legal advice, and we're not attorneys, so we don't do that.
We don't know that.
But if the question asks,
What form?
gives you a scenario and it asks you what form of ownership this actually is, then you could go ahead and answer. Okay? Any
What form?
questions for me?
Yeah, what form is a default form, right?
2 or more people not married to each other. What's the default form?
Mhm.
Entity.
No, if they're not married to each other. You got 2 or more people not married to each other. What's the default form of ownership?
Ownership by one person or entity.
Tenancy in common.
Right,
Tenancy, I was
tenancy in
reading
common.
So once again, tenancy and severalty is ownership by one person or entity. An entity is a corporation, right? If you're married, tenancy by the entirety is the form of ownership, and tenants by the entirety do have the right of survivorship, just like joint tenants. Tenants in common is the default form of ownership. 2 or more people or entities not married to each other owning a property together. They can have unequal ownership shares of interest. They can leave their interest in a will to their heirs. They can sell their interest without the other owner's consent. Joint tenancy, you need to specify you wish to take ownership in this form when there's 2 or more people that are owning the property together. Corporation can never be a joint tenant because of its perpetual life. And you have to specify you wish to become a joint tenant at the time you take the ownership. And you have to have 4 unities in common to create a joint tenancy. TTIP, the unities of time, title, interest, and possession. That alone could be a question on exams. Hint, hint. What are the 4 unities required to create joint tenancy? Time, title, interest, and possession. And what's the only benefit to having joint tenancy? The right of survivorship. If you're not married to each other, the only way to get the right of survivorship is to create a joint tenancy. Then it doesn't matter how many owners you have there, 4, 5, 20. You all have the right of survivorship. When one owner dies, the survivors automatically equally split the shares of the owner who had died. Okay.
Tennessee.
You guys need to study that. You need to know the 4 different types of forms of ownership and what the differences are between them. Okay. Which one of these forms of ownership? Which of these forms of ownership can you leave your shares in a will to somebody?
Share.
Which of these forms of ownership can you leave your ownership to somebody in a will?
I want to say Tennessee is
Tennessee common. Tennessee common.
It's both tenancy in severalty and
Is it-
tenancy in common.
Common. Yeah, several in commons.
Both of those. Not tenancy by the entirety, because when you die, your spouse automatically gets it. You can't leave it to someone else. And joint tenancy, well, what's the point of joint tenancy? The right of survivorship, right? So you can't leave your shares of interest in a will to somebody, because when you die, those other co-owners automatically get it. Right?
2 forms, Tennessee in common and survival, right?
And severalty.
Several.
Yeah, it's pronounced severalty, like several, like more than one.
Severalty.
Even though it comes from the root word of sever, where your interests are severed from all others, so it's sole ownership.
Severalty.
Yeah, you guys will get questions on exams on this, so you need to know the 4 types of ownership and the differences between them. Which ones can leave it by will, which ones cannot, which ones have the right of partition, what is a right of partition, which ones have the right of survivorship, which ones do not, what is the right of survivorship, and for joint tenancy, what is required to create a joint tenancy, the 4 unities, TTIP, time, title, interest, and possession. So you're probably going to need to watch this video again or study your notes pretty good to get this down.
I'm confused with Tennessee and rent. Both.
What do you mean rent? We're talking about ownership. We're not talking about renting.
Okay.
Okay. So these are the 4 forms of ownership. Okay. So you're not a tenant like a renter. This is the 4 types of ownership. Okay. So don't overthink the word tenancy.
Okay.
Tenancy in severalty, tenancy in the entirety, tenancy in common. That doesn't mean that you're a tenant that is renting. It's,
Okay.
It's just a form of saying you're occupying it. How? You're occupying it alone. You're occupying it tenancy, occupying, right? You're occupying it alone in severalty. You're occupying it by the entirety with your spouse. You're occupying it in common with other co-owners who are not married, or you have a joint tenancy, okay, joint occupation, which the only benefit is the right of survivorship.
So can I match, means right now, this house is for joint. Can I say joint? Joint tenancy means with my husband and me. I just want to know as an example that this house.
Well, which one is for married couples?
Tenancy by entirety.
Well, that's how you own it with your husband.
Okay. Now that's a very practical example. I just wanted to know this house we can say like tenancy by entirely, ownership by married couple. Okay.
You and your husband own it by the entirety. So you have the right of survivorship, right? So if one of you should pass away, the other one automatically gets it.
I see.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Now let's go over different types of business structures. We're not talking about types of ownership of real estate anymore. Now we're just talking about different types of business structures. If you start a business all on your own, that's referred to as a sole proprietorship, right? If you have two or more people that get together to start a business, it's a partnership. We're going to go over, there's two types of partnerships, a general partnership and limited partnership. We're going to go over those in a moment. You have corporations. Corporations require a lot of paperwork to form. You need several people to fill positions. And these are legally formed business entities. You got to file a lot of paperwork and a lot of expense for them. LLC is a way that you could get some of the same legal protections as a corporation, and you get the single pass-through. Your income gets taxed only once there. So that's the benefit of having an LLC if you got a small business. You don't need to go through filling out becoming a corporation. You could become an LLC, limited liability company, that basically gets some of the same legal protections as a corporation, and some of the tax benefits is you only get taxed once, although the tax rate's a little bit higher. Usually taxed at like a 15% tax rate. But once you start making a decent amount of money at your LLC, you probably shouldn't remain just an LLC. You should file your taxes as an S Corp. Okay, there's different benefits to that. Once your income, I think, say, is over about $45,000 to $50,000, then that LLC should probably start filing as an S Corp. Syndicates and joint ventures. These are not legally formed business entities. But we'll go over what a syndicate and joint venture is in a moment. And then the same thing with real estate investment trust. It's a REIT. Real estate investment trusts, we need to know, who do they get the same tax benefits as? Mutual fund investors. So we're going to go over that. Ooh, the book really screwed up the definition. This guy who contributed to the book the last time, man, he screwed up, because this is just wrong. I already told this to the book manufacturer, so they already got a note of it. So a business partnership is when you got two or more people that start a business together, right? But there's two forms of business partnerships. You got general partners and limited partners. A general partner is an owner of the business that works in the day-to-day business, the day-to-day details of the business. That's what a general partner is. So therefore, a general partner can be held liable for any additional debts that a business takes on if they go out and take more new loans and things like that. In a limited partnership, in a general partnership, all of the partners are general partners. See, the book is wrong here. That's why I had you cross this out where it says, ironically, there's no general partner in a general partnership. No, ironically, all the general partners are, all the co-owners are general partners in a general partnership. So that's just totally wrong the way this teacher or who made suggestions for the rewrite in his book. That was totally wrong explanation. So just cross it out. Everything after ironically in that paragraph. Because ironically, he's wrong. All right. So in a general partnership, all the partners, all the co-owners of the business work in the day-to-day business, and they could all be held liable for any additional debts the business takes on. Whereas a limited partnership, there's always at least one general partner who works in the business and can be held liable for any additional debts the business takes on. All the other partners do not work in the business. They're just investors. So the only thing they risk is their initial investment in the business. They cannot be held liable if the business takes on any additional debts. They take out any new loans, etc. You guys got those highlights and stuff
Yeah.
crossed?
Mhm. Good.
All right. So this is a slide I put together instead of just having those messy notes where you got to cross out all the incorrect stuff and highlight these things. I just put together this slide, which gives you a simple explanation of it. Okay. What a general partner and what a limited partner is. You'll need to know for exams. I know you get questions on this on exam. So if you want that straightforward definition that I repeated quite a few times already, you got it right here on screen. Go on, take a shot.
Yes, I did it. Good.
Okay. So, real estate ownership by corporations. Once again, what's the only ways that a corporation can own real estate? In severalty, if they own it on their own, or in common. Corporations can never own as joint tenants because of their corporations never die. They get dissolved, right? And so it would always be that last man standing, so to speak, if they were allowed to be a co-owner as a joint tenant. And corporations don't get married. People do. When corporations get together, they have mergers. And when they break up, they dissolve it, right? So that's all that this slide says. And then corporations are managed by their board of directors. The board of directors are the people who are supposed to be looking out for the best interest of the investors. So the board of directors, that's why any major decisions, this president or CEO, they're not supposed to do it on their own. They got to run those major decisions by the board of directors because they have to look out and be cautious that they're looking out for the best interest of their investors, because if they don't, who the hell's going to invest in the company anymore if they know that they're pissing away the money, right? If they're not using it properly, if they're going to do something that's going to taint the image of your business, because that could cost you financially, right? Just look at Bud Light. See the decisions that the president of the division of Bud Light that she made. It ended up there was a lot of public outrage over it because a lot of people that drink Bud Light they tend not to be trans, and they ended up making the whole advertising campaign about this kinds of stuff. Okay, so. I mean, corporations, they're not supposed to be getting involved in all these social experiments or special causes and stuff. You should stay. It's like actors and actresses. Do you really care what their politics are, or do you watch them because you want to be entertained for a little while and forget about the craziness in the world? I hate it when you get actors and actresses. They think that they're so darn important that we all need to know what their politics are. And we base our political decisions based on what some idiot actor has to say, same thing in corporations, so the corporate board of directors are supposed to be there to make sure that any decisions those corporations do, they do them on behalf of their investors. They have to look out for their investors' best interest. So who makes all the major decisions in a corporation to buy or sell real estate?
The board of directors.
The board of directors. It's got to be run by the board of directors. So anytime the corporation wants to sell a significant part of its real estate or buy a major amount, it got to be run by the board of directors. Okay, so they make all those decisions on behalf of the shareholders. So they look out for the best interests of the shareholders. And a corporation can convey real estate only upon a proper resolution passed by its board of directors. And then they're going to appoint an individual to be the representative of that corporation. So if you get somebody coming to you and says, hey, listen, I got I'm selling the property for the LLC. Okay, well, then you need paperwork showing me that you're the person designated by the LLC, that there's been a resolution passed showing that, because who are you? I don't know if you're related to the LLC or not. You need some kind of paperwork showing that you were appointed to make those decisions for the LLC, right? Or corporation. So, as real estate agents, when you get a listing from a property where the owner is listed as a corporation, you're going to need that additional documentation. You don't just take someone's word that says, I'm the owner of the corporation. Okay, prove it. You should have the paperwork. Shouldn't be an issue for you to show it to me. You need to make a copy of that too. All right.
Tenant in common.
So let's highlight under corporations here on page 124. Because a corporation is a legal entity, real estate ownership by corporations in severalty or as tenants in common if it's a partial ownership. And then 2 paragraphs down, a corporation is managed and operated by its board of directors. And I got a little cross-reference here, page 366, above board of directors.
Because where is the line? Oh, corporation. Equal. Got it.
All right. So now turn to page 366 just for a moment to do this highlight. So under the law, a corporation is considered a legal entity. It's a fictitious person. It's a fake person for tax purposes. There's 3 basic rules that must be followed when corporations convey real estate. A corporation can convey real estate only upon a proper resolution passed by its board of directors. We'll highlight that. If all or a substantial portion of a corporation's real estate is being conveyed, it's also usually required that a resolution authorize the sale be secured from its stockholders, but that's only if all or a major amount of that corporation's real estate is being sold. And deeds to real estate can be signed only by an authorized officer. So that board of directors will authorize somebody to act on behalf of that corporation. Note, the corporate seal does not need to be affixed to the conveyance unless there's an acknowledgement mentioning that you need to have the corporate seal signed, fixed to any documents that are signed by the representative. Okay. So you could turn back to page 124. Syndicate is 2 or more people coming together to carry out a business project. It's not a legally formed business entity. It's just 2 or more people coming together to carry out a business project. When the project is done, the syndicate's done. Same thing with a joint venture. It's not a legally formed business entity. It's 2 or more groups that come together to carry out a business project. And when the project is done, the joint venture is done. A REIT. REIT stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. It's a form of organization that's useful for taking advantage of certain tax benefits. They get the same tax benefits as mutual fund investors. Who says you need to invest in funds and bonds for your retirement plan? Why can't you invest in real estate? Well, you can. It's called a REIT. In order to have a REIT, you got to have at least 100 investors, and 75% of that trust income, at least 75% of that trust income, must come from real estate as the investment vehicle. And it is a stable investment that pays out slow and steady. REITs are usually, if you ever come across a REIT, they come to your office and they're looking for specific properties. They're looking for large apartment complexes to buy or office buildings and things of that nature. They're looking for these purchases that are $10 million and more. A REIT would buy an apartment complex. Apartment complexes are generally profitable, right? You got all the tenants paying their rent, right? Maybe you have a couple that don't, but that's part of business, right? You got to get them out eventually, replace them with tenants that do. But overall, the apartment complex is profitable because most of the tenants do pay their rents, right? So it's a pretty safe investment for a retirement plan, right? So that's what a real estate investment trust is, a REIT. They usually invest in large apartment complexes with several hundred units, high-rise buildings, business centers, shopping centers, things of that nature. So let's do the highlights now for the stuff for the REITs. On page 124, let's highlight a real estate investment trust REIT is a form of organization that's useful for taking advantage of certain tax benefits. And then right beneath that, same tax benefits as mutual fund investors. See page 333.
Okay, 1 minute.
And then after you write that down, you go to page 333 and you highlight this.
Wait. Three.
Let me know when everybody's got it.
Okay.
Writing it down. Okay, yeah, I'm done. Good.
Okay.
Mhm.
So now we're going to start talking about condominiums and cooperatives. So condominiums and cooperatives offer condominium and cooperative ownership of housing. Wait, let me make sure we're recording here. I start recording again.
No.
Yes, I did.
Oh,
So, condominiums and cooperative ownership of housing has risen in the second half of the 20th century, together with townhouses and planned unit developments, which we call PUDs for short. Condos and co-ops offer the emotional, financial, and tax advantages of home ownership, combined with the various advantages of apartment living. As opposed to traditional single-family homes, even though condos can be a single detached home, condos generally are not single detached homes, but they can be. Condos and co-ops offer more efficient use of ever scarcer building land, lower cost for lot development, less outlay for construction per living unit, and some savings in the maintenance and heating bills. And contributing to the growth of condos and co-ops are changes in population patterns with increasing number of single homeowners, one-parent families, and senior citizens. You see, as society changes, they don't need the big house anymore because you no longer have these big families. See, which is probably a major contributor to why we're seeing so much crime in our nation these days. We got broken families up, right? It's, I understand the struggle for single moms, but you know what? There's no replacement for having a dad in the house too. For a family to grow up properly and children to grow up adjusted properly. You need to have both parents there. But either way, we're seeing as society changes, it's more and more common to have a single parent families, single homeowners and senior citizens owning. They no longer need the big house after all the kids moved out and stuff. So then they go and they downsize and they maybe just get a condo, right? So to such groups, community living offers security and sociability, ease of maintenance, because they don't got to worry about cutting the grass no more, right? Or shoveling the snow generally. And sometimes the opportunity for sharing expensive recreational facilities like swimming pools and exercise rooms, pool hall rooms, IMAX movie theaters, even in some of these condo complexes, a hall that you could rent out for parties, tennis courts. In order for you to have all these kinds of recreational facilities, Olympic-sized swimming pool in your backyard, to have a fully stocked gym and all these other amenities, that can be a lot of money, and you're going to need a lot of space. So, it makes it so that you could have a benefits of a lot more of these additional amenities. And amenities, any kind of benefit to the property, an additional benefit to the property. So the terms condominium and cooperative, they refer to forms of ownership. And looking at a shared housing complex, if you just look at the architectural building, it gives you no clue as to what form of ownership it is, whether it's a condominium or a cooperative, or in some cases a PUD. The buildings themselves could be high rises, townhouses, patio homes, garden apartments, or even single detached houses. So the differences arise from the legal form of ownership, not the architectural style. So condominium ownership is not limited to residential condos. You also have commercial condos for businesses. You guys ever went to maybe a tax preparer, a doctor, attorney, acupuncturist, I don't know, a real estate agency that's running out of a condominium instead of a standalone building? Well, it's because it's a lot more affordable for them to be able to do it that way. Condos generally tend to be cheaper than separate standalone architecture buildings, right? Well, cooperative ownership is common in New York City, but it could also be found in New Jersey. We have a lot of co-ops in Edison. Cooperative ownership became popular in the 1920s as the urban population grew after World War I. Individual housing became more expensive, and the boards of directors were choosy about who could buy in. And because of that, some people feel like they're discriminated against, but that's not the reason why they're so choosy. The number of newly built cooperatives have decreased greatly over the last 50 years. So under the usual cooperative agreement, title to the land and the building is held by the corporation. So when you own a co-op, you do not own real estate. The corporation owns the real estate. You're buying stock in the corporation that owns the real estate. And then they give you a proprietary lease to occupy the space that you're going to be living in. The proprietary lease, that's just a fancy term for custom lease. They give you a custom lease that allows you to occupy the space that you're going to be living in when you buy stock in the corporation that owns the real estate. Now, your guests aren't going to be able to tell the difference whether you're owning a condo or a co-op when they come to visit you. Looks the same, right? Which one do you think is cheaper? owning a condominium or a cooperative?
I believe it's the same.
Co-op is always cheaper because you don't own the real estate.
Hmm.
So the taxes have been paid by the co-op.
Okay, now that's a little different story. Yeah, the taxes are paid by the corporation, but where do they get the money from? Your monthly maintenance fees. So in cooperatives, the monthly maintenance fees tend to be higher than they are in condominiums. Because if you own real estate, you own a condo, you also get a separate tax bill as well as your monthly maintenance charge. The monthly maintenance charge is just really for keeping the common areas in shape, you know, the landscaping, you know, the snow removal, things of that nature, right? So the monthly maintenance fee can be lower in a condominium because in a co-op, it doesn't just cover the maintenance charges, but also a portion of that money goes towards paying the property's taxes that is going to be paid by the corporation as the owner. But each property owner is going to be paying that, contributing to that through their monthly maintenance charge. So, for example, if a monthly maintenance charge at a condo complex is $150 a month, in a co-op, it could be $500.
Oh.
So what's the difference?
The difference is the form of ownership.
Hmm.
In a condo, you own real estate. In a co-op, you own stock in a corporation that owns the real estate.
So
You,
in a
yeah.
condo,
Mhm.
you own what?
Real estate.
You own real estate. In a co-op, you own stock in a corporation that owns the real estate. So that's what I'm having you highlight here on page 124.
Okay.
Title to the land and the building is held by the corporation, and each purchaser of an apartment in the building receives stock in the corporation and a proprietary lease.
Oh.
Co-op owners do not actually own real estate. They own stock, which is personal property. So each prospective owner must be approved by the board of directors. So because of that, there's often an interview process, or they may have an application you need to fill out to get approval from the board, because who manages a corporation? The board of directors, right? So this is the time where people start feeling like they're discriminated against because they may be rejected. However, the board is doing it for a certain reason. It's because, like, if you go to buy a condo, the management in the condominium complex, you don't got to fill out an application. You just buy the unit and then you're a member, right? However, you know, they're not running your credit score to see what your credit score is to get approved by the, you know, by the condo association. With a co-op, they have minimum credit score requirement of 620. So if you don't have that minimum credit score, they may reject you. The reason being is because the credit score is a reflection of how well you pay your bills on time and such. And if you've got 620 is average, it's prime. Anything below 620 is considered subprime. So if you're buying a co-op and your credit score is below 620, they may reject you because they don't want you falling behind on making your monthly maintenance payments. Because if you do, the corporation, they'll use part of that monthly maintenance to pay the taxes on the property, or maybe even an underlying mortgage that they still have on the property. They get those funds from that monthly maintenance charge, in addition to the money for maintaining the premises, right?
Can I ask, do we have in New Jersey, can I have some example where we have this cooperatives?
There's a bunch of them in Edison, right? Look, you got one, you know where Menlo Park Mall is?
Yeah.
All right. You know where the Panera Bread is over there?
Yes.
Before the mall, and there's a 7-Eleven across the street from it.
Yeah, next to that big
side street of the 7-Eleven, right across from the Panera Bread and the side street to the 7-Eleven. If you take it to the end, you can just look down the street and you can see there's a gate over there that swings open for cars. That lets you into a complex. That is a co-op complex back there. It's not condos. Those are cooperatives. Now, if you look at the buildings, they look like condos. I mean, what's the difference? The form of ownership. That's it. You can't tell the difference just by looking. There's also on the border of Edison and Highland Park, before you go over the bridge to get into, what is that, New Brunswick? There's so if you're over by Route 1 and you're on the border of Edison and Highland Park, there's on the right-hand side, there's that Edison Diner over there, but there's behind that, there's a huge complex. It looks like a condo complex or apartments. It's actually co-ops.
Do they look like apartments?
That one over there, I mean, what is an apartment can look like a condo can look like an apartment. I mean, what does it look like? They look the same, you know. They're taxed housing. They're taxed housing, you know.
The difference is the legal, it's not the physical construction, right?
It's the ownership.
It's the form of ownership. Yep.
The ownership, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, can both condo and co-ops have HOAs?
Well, they have management. That's what you're getting at. But when you own a condominium, it's called a homeowners association. All the owners in a condo complex become members of the homeowners association, or HOA, like you said. In a cooperative, there are no homeowners. It's a corporation that owns it.
Yeah.
And who manages a corporation? A board of directors. So they don't have an HOA, they got a board of directors.
They are a stockholder.
Yeah, you're a stockholder. You own shares in the corporation that owns the real estate. And then you're allowed to live in the unit that you're buying the stock for with that proprietary lease. So that's what this is explaining here. Co-op owners do not actually own real estate, they own stock, which is personal property. Now, for all practical purposes, they control the property through their stock ownership and their voice in the management of the corporation. Co-op bylaws generally provide that each prospective owner must be approved by the board of directors.
Also, they have single family house, right?
What do you mean? Well, each one is single family.
Single family.
I mean, an apartment is single family, right?
Yeah. Now, just want to know the layout. Like they have like a single family A size. They have whatever that they have this.
Well, it could be
property.
it could be any architectural style.
Okay, any architect style.
Whether it's attached housing or detached housing, or only a couple units attached, and have many of these little buildings with just several units attached to each other. It depends on the layout of the complex, how they put it together. That's the architectural style, though, right? It's still a bit different than the ownership. So one disadvantage of cooperative ownership is the possibility that if enough owner occupants become financially unable to make prompt payment of their monthly assessments, the corporation may be forced to allow mortgage and tax payments to go unpaid. This was actually a problem in the 1930s. So through such defaults, the entire property could be ordered sold by the court in a foreclosure suit. This is why co-ops are more picky in their interview process and have minimum credit score requirements. Because if you get enough tenants that are bad at paying their bills, they don't pay them on time, corporation may start defaulting and making their tax payments or mortgage payments on the underlying property that they own. Through such defaults, the entire property can get foreclosed on, and it could affect your neighbors who are paying their monthly maintenance fee. So that's why they tend to be more picky, so that it doesn't happen.
More picky, but cheaper than condo, right?
Cheaper price to buy into it.
Okay.
Monthly maintenance fees probably higher, because the monthly maintenance charge, you don't get a separate tax bill. So they build it into the monthly maintenance charge. That's why your monthly maintenance fee is a lot higher than in a condo is. But condo,
still,
Condos still get a separate. Yeah, if you own a condo, you have a smaller monthly maintenance charge, but you get your own tax bill separately. So, I mean, are you paying more really? No. Right. So, such a sale may destroy the interest of all the owners, even those who paid their assessments, their monthly fees. Accumulation of substantial funds of reserves for future repairs and emergency payments. Okay, so there's your definition for reserves. Add that to your definition list. It applies to both condos or co-ops. Reserves. What are reserves? It's an accumulation of substantial funds for future repairs and emergency payments. Right?
Yeah, one second.
So your monthly maintenance fee does not just include the for the money that's needed for repairs. They build a little bit extra in there, so they collect a little bit extra from the tenants that they put into a reserve account for emergencies and repairs. Like if we had this winter is going to be a lot more horrible than the previous ones. We're going to have a lot more snow, so it's going to cost a lot more to do the snow removal. So they need that cash on hand to cover those expenses, right? Or if a tree fell down or something, they need to get that cut up. Or it fell on the roof, and now a roof needs to be replaced, you know, or things of that nature. You know, those the snow plowing caused potholes, and now the lot needs to be repaved, you know, because it's dangerous. So they're going to need to have the money to do that. Where do they get that from? Their reserve account. This is why when you buy into condos or co-ops, really, one of the important thing is to look at their financials. You look at their financial statements for the last couple of years. Okay, so what are you looking for in their financial statements? You want to see that they have at least 2 to 3 months operating expenses in their reserve account. So if they didn't take in another penny today, that they have enough money in that reserve account to manage the entire complex for 2 to 3 months. If they don't, you know your monthly maintenance charge is going to be going up at some point in the future really soon. And you could also look at it as they're not managing the complex properly. Look, a lot of times in these condos and co-op, well, more than co-ops, but in condos, you get nepotism because it's like it's run like a mini government. So you have the board of the board. You have the HOA, right? All homeowners within the condominium complex will be members of the homeowners association. However, do you buy a condo so that you could get involved in politics to be voting on how to manage a complex? It's just like, do you buy a house so that you could get involved in politics in your city? No, right? It's just a place to live. So what they'll do is they'll usually elect somebody to run the city, right? Well, the same thing with the condo complex. All homeowners are going to be a member of the HOA, but you're not there to be involved in politics. But there will be a couple people that will be willing to run it. So you could elect people to be on the board of the homeowners association, right? Now those people are the ones that meet at all the meetings, and they vote to create new rules and stuff. They kind of act like politicians, right? Like your city council members in your town that vote to do improvements or vote for certain rules to be made, right? It's very similar. It's just like a little mini government within your complex. Now government, there's a lot of corrupt politicians out there. Power goes straight to their head. Well, in a condo complex, it's no different. Power goes straight to these people's heads sometimes that are on the managing boards. They start creating all these ridiculous rules, and then they enforce them with fines and penalties. You even see commercials out there that goof on them because it's not just a stereotype. There's truth to some stereotypes, right? And so I'm even going to show you a Geico commercial where they even goof on it, the HOA boards. So everybody got these highlights down that the shareholders have all the income tax advantages of the homeowners of a single family. Many co-ops do not permit rentals because if the ratio of rentals is too high, a prospective buyer may have difficulty obtaining adequate financing. Can you get a mortgage loan to buy a co-op?
No.
Why not? You're right, but why not? Well,
Because
co-ops, you don't own real estate. And what is a
Right.
mortgage loan? What is the mortgage part of that mortgage loan? It's a
the
promise
stock.
to pay. And what does that promise say? If I don't pay you back according to the terms in the note, you could foreclose on me, sell that property at auction. With a co-op, you don't own property, so they can't foreclose on it, right? So you need to have the cash or get a personal loan to buy in a co-op.
Okay.
Because it's not a mortgage loan, because you can't pledge the property as security for the loan because you don't own property. You own stock in a corporation that owns the property. Okay,
I did not know this kind of family means houses they have outside.
yeah,
Co-op, I never heard it.
yeah, they're there.
Only condo I heard it, but no co-op kind
Yeah,
of.
we do have co-ops here as well. Yeah, but they tend to be cheaper. Look, like that complex over there. What's your average in Edison? What would probably be an average price for a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath condominium in Edison?
I would say 3,000, 3,400 something.
So 300,000.
Three.
So let's just say 300,000. Okay. So if it's 300,000 for a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath condo in Edison, if it was a co-op, it would probably be about 75,000 or 85,000.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot cheaper to get into it. Now, are your visitors going to notice the difference? Are they going to know the difference? No, the architectural style could be exactly the same.
Wow.
The difference lies in the form of ownership. And your monthly maintenance charge is going to be higher because you don't get a separate tax bill. Heat and hot water is often included, in your monthly
That's
maintenance.
good, actually. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you drive through them and people got their windows open with the heat cranking in the middle of winter. They ain't paying a bill. I like to get that fresh air, that cool breeze coming in while I got the heat cranking in the middle of the winter.
That would be me.
Sure, if you're not paying the bill, right?
But I am paying the bill.
Well, then you don't do it as often, right?
I was having it. They're like, why is your window open? I don't know. It's something about the fresh air. I need that.
So let me ask you, might be it's a off topic. What is the lower income houses? I heard from my
It's housing for lower income.
babysitter.
That's it.
What is that?
It's housing for lower income people. That's it. That's the only difference.
But their houses, do they have some kind of this kind of name, co-op houses or something? It's just a lower income.
Well, yeah, low income housing it could be apartments, it could be condos, it could be co-ops, but generally,
I see.
yeah, because low income, you could have them own real estate and buy real estate in a low income building. It's just going to be cheaper. But usually there's backlogs for that. There's a lottery system.
Oh, yeah.
Application. It's a big to do.
Right.
It's not easy to get. It's not easy to get.
That's true.
They're limited and there's many applicants that want to try to get affordable housing, especially the price of real estate here in New Jersey. I guess one can say that our politicians in New Jersey, if we want to play their stupid games that they always play, the politicians in New Jersey hate poor people. They try to get rid of poor people. You know how they do that? Or here's a common thing that they always say. They always combine poor people and minorities, right? So politicians hate poor people and minorities. Now, where am I getting that from? Well, Isn't that the excuse that they always say when you pass a law that they don't like? Well, look at them. Look at what the politicians are doing. Their taxes are so high. Aren't they effectively pricing poor people out of the state?
Yeah.
Either that or forcing them to live on the street. You know?
Mhm.
See, you can make an argument. If you want to get into politics, you can make arguments of looking at different views, looking at things from different views all the time.
Mm.
That's arguments that or excuses politicians always give. All right, so now New Jersey has a law that provides that owners of co-ops in buildings with 10 or more units could rent their units if they've been trying to sell them for 4 or more months at a price no greater than their initial investment. So basically, if you see that co-ops are so much cheaper than condos, you may get the idea, well, let me buy a bunch. I could buy 4 condos for the price, or 4 co-ops for the price of 1 condo. Well, no, you can't, because if you do that, you can't rent it out. Generally, co-ops don't allow you to rent.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, you got to go through an application process too, right? So
right, right.
generally don't want you to rent. And because who takes better care of the property, renters or owners?
Owner.
Owners.
So they generally don't want you buying them just to rent them out. However, there is a law in New Jersey that would allow, even if the co-op complex does not allow rentals, they would allow you to rent your unit if you've been trying to sell it for more than, if there's 10 or more units in the complex, and you've been trying to sell your unit for at least 4 months or more at a price no greater than what you bought it for, your initial investment,
Oh.
and any money you put into it. Okay. Co-op ownership. Title to the land is held by the corporation as the owner. So purchasers do not own real estate. They own stock, which is an intangible personal asset.
Personal assets.
Yep. Let me get to this. Find what slide we're on. Cooperative ownership. Yeah, let me get this. Just want to make this font a little bit smaller.
Property lease. Customer.
So title to the land is held by the corporation as the owner. So purchasers do not own real estate. They own stock, which is an intangible personal asset. A proprietary lease is a fancy name for a custom lease, which gives a tenant stock owner the right to occupy the unit that they're living in. Income tax advantages are identical to those of single family homeowners. The tenant has a voice to control the property management through their stock ownership. Maintenance fees are usually much higher than condos because it includes the mortgage, tax, insurance, CAM, which is the common area maintenance charge, which, by the way, that is nowhere in the book. What page is this that we're talking about all this stuff? Co-ops. Somewhere about 125-ish, right? And okay, so CAM is the common area maintenance charge. You also include the sewer, water, heat, trash, snow removal. That's all included in your monthly maintenance charge. So the values of properties tend to be more stable, and they don't fluctuate as radically as they do with condo ownership in cooperatives. With co-op ownership, there's a shared expense. There's usually one underlying mortgage on the entire property, and the tenant shareholders, it has tenant shareholders. Taxes are charged to the corporation as the owner and billed to the tenants as part of their monthly maintenance fee. Bylaws require each purchaser must be approved by the board of directors, which manages the corporation. Usually there's a minimum FICO credit score requirement of 620. Okay. FICO, by the way, means, and if anybody's ever curious about what FICO means, is it an abbreviation for something? Yeah, Fair Isaacs and Company. They're the ones that created the credit scoring system that we currently use. So most do not permit renting. If there's too many rentals in a co-op, people may have a difficulty obtaining financing for other units that they want to buy, other buyers. And there's that exception for that law where you can rent if there's 10 or more units and you tried to sell yours for at least 4 months or more at a price no greater than your initial investment. Long-term stability of tenants is common. And financing the purchase is going to be cash or a personal loan, not a mortgage loan, because you don't own real estate, so you can't pledge it as security for the loan. That's what a mortgage loan is. Real estate agents cannot prepare sales contracts for cooperatives. They must be prepared by attorneys. You're selling stock, not real estate. So we can advertise them, but we don't actually prepare the contract for the sale of a co-op. That needs to be prepared by attorneys. Okay.
Mhm.
And so the first condominiums were built in Puerto Rico in 1958. And the FHA was allowed to insure mortgages for condominiums by 1969. Many people were introduced to condominium ownership in Florida, which had introduced it by concept from Puerto Rico. Popularity stems from the ability to obtain affordable housing, often in highly desirable areas that are typically beyond the economic reach of most. So buyers of condominiums receive a deed conveying fee simple ownership of two things. What is fee simple ownership? It's the highest form of ownership recognized by law, unrestricted ownership forever, right? So you get that fee simple ownership of only two things, though. From the paint on the interior walls inward, you can't go busting out the walls and messing with the pipes because those pipes are shared with the other unit owners as well, right? They're all connected to the same sewer pipes and water pipes. So, and a proportionate, undivided interest of the common area elements. So chief among the common elements are the land and the exterior of the buildings. The common property could also include the hallways, basements, elevators, stairwells, driveways, private roads, sidewalks, lawns, landscaping, and recreational facilities. The pool, the tennis courts, the basketball courts, all that stuff, right? So in many respects, condominium ownership may be regarded in the same light as the owner of a single detached house. Title can be held in severalty by the entirety as joint tenants or tenants in common. The unit receives an individual tax bill and may be mortgaged as a house would be. The owners place a separate insurance policy on their living space. Income tax advantages are identical to those for single-family homes. And the owners are free to sell the property, lease it, give it away, or leave it to their heirs. Each unit's a financial entity, and if an adjoining unit is foreclosed, it doesn't affect your unit. So owners, here, let's make sure we highlight this stuff, page 126. Owners, however, are bound by the bylaws of the Homeowners Association to which all will belong. So as long as the rules are not unreasonable, okay, well, that's a little subjective, isn't it? What is reasonable or unreasonable? New Jersey law permits associations to enforce their own rules by fining residents who fail to comply. Like they may have rules like no oversized or commercial vehicles in the parking lot, no cars with car wraps in the parking lot, because car wraps are usually on commercial vehicles. They may not allow you to put a barbecue on your balcony because there's a separate area for barbecuing. You have to break down your cardboards before you put them in. You know, they have rules about how you throw away your recyclables or garbage. They may have rules that they don't allow you to display a flag you know, because then you can get people that are going to have all their different kinds of political flags out there, you know. So usually you hear a story about a veteran who's you got the American flag out there, and you know they keep finding him because he's got a decorative flag. Well, that's the American flag. There should be always an exception for the American flag. But the thing is, you put up an American flag, then you get everybody else there who doesn't like America. You know, you get you get all these Marxist and socialist people that start putting up their own flags. Then you can have the special interests. You know, you can have your trans flags flying all over the place, and all these other ones too. You know, so this is why they try to avoid it, and they just say no flags. Okay. So New Jersey law permits associations to enforce their rules by fining residents who fail to comply with them. Now, while condominium boards can stall or exercise a first right of refusal, if it does, they rarely have the right to evict an owner. Monthly fees are levied for the maintenance, insurance, and management of common elements. If unpaid, these common charges become a lien against the individual unit and may even be enforced by foreclosure. The bylaws also set up covenants, conditions, and restrictions. What's a covenant? It's a legal promise, right? So covenants, conditions, and restrictions. That's what CC&R stands for, okay? And so the bylaws set those rules up. And they could, for example, prohibit the display of a for sale sign or painting your front door an oddball color. Why? Because they want uniformity in the complex. Because uniformity maintains the neighborhood at a certain level, makes it look nice. And it retains value better when things are uniform, rather than you got people that really want to be individualized. They want to put their own flowers out, decorative out front. But some people don't have a green thumb, and some people, it can look like crap. They go overboard, They want everything to be uniform. So a condominium is governed by its board of directors. So these are often elected volunteers who also live in the building. They're part of the homeowners association. As fiduciaries, what's a fiduciary? They have the responsibility of loyalty and care and duty to protect the community. They should have enough time to be involved and have the knowledge of accounting and good business practices to preserve and protect its assets. The day-to-day operations of the condominium are generally handled by a condominium manager. So in New Jersey, let's highlight, how do we establish a condominium? Let's just say you buy a piece of land and you want to turn it into a condo. You want to build a condo there. How is this done? Well, in New Jersey, the creation of condominiums is regulated by the state's Horizontal Properties Act and the Condominium Act. So in New Jersey, Condominium Act applies to condo associations created after January 7th, 1970. So the first owners of the property execute and record a master deed, and they file it in the public record of the county where the property is located. Many items must be contained in or attached to that master deed, including a legal description of the land, graphic description of the buildings, and other improvements, which identifies the units by letter, name, or number, and specifies a percentage of the common elements, if any, are included in the ownership of each unit. A description of the common elements, provision for an association of unit owners, and a list of the bylaws. To start out, you got to have some kind of rules at the beginning, right? All right, so in a condo, you receive a deed for fee simple ownership of two things: from the paint on the interior walls inward and a proportionate undivided interest of the common area elements. There's an HOA, a homeowners association, to which all will belong. All the homeowners will be, unit owners will be a member of the homeowners association. Bylaws set up those CC&Rs, those covenants, conditions, and restrictions. These are the rules and regulations of the HOA that everyone needs to follow. So rules that can prohibit a display of a for sale sign, painting your front door a wacky color, not allowing oversized or commercial vehicles in the lot, no decorations in the flower pots, like putting a little flags and stuff like that, car wraps, etc. On the next slide, we're going to see a goof of invasive rule enforcement, which tends to be the reason why people move out of condos. Not just when their family's expanding. I used to actually specialize in. I sold so many condos in my day that was the specialty of mine. I sold condos, so I was privileged of the unique differences through the knowledge I've learned when selling so many. That what I've found is that a lot of people that move out of condos, when it's not because they want to upgrade to buy a house and expanding family and all, they may have really loved the condo complex where they were living, but what they didn't like is the management. It goes to their head. They start creating all these crazy rules, walking around with their clipboards, putting their nose in all your business. That's to the point, look, that we even have Geico making goof commercials, which I'm going to show you one on the next slide.
So condo and townhouses, both are similar, right? Condos are smaller than townhouses, right?
You're going to need to know the difference, and one of the last slides on this chapter is going to have that question. What's the difference between a condo and a townhouse? Because so many people confuse it.
Right.
Condo is a form of ownership. Townhouse is just an architectural style.
Okay.
Often townhouses are condos. So we'll get into it in a little more detail.
Okay.
Don't worry. So HOA fee, that's your monthly maintenance charge you need to pay for maintaining the common area elements. And if left unpaid, they could even be enforced by foreclosure. Condos are managed by the board of directors. Often professional management is hired if there's more than 25 units, but not always. Hard for people to let go of some of the power once they get it, right? I'm not going to give this up to professional management. How am I going to get my wife or husband in a job to be the attorney for the complex or the landscaper or what have you? So that's what I talk about with nepotism. It starts to get like a little mini government. When you get elected to the board of management of the condo association, you could tell when it's being mismanaged. Instead of putting bids out for the best candidates to do the jobs, like in the public sector, or in the private sector, public sector, your government, your local government, if they're going to hire somebody to do for a job, there's a job opening at City Hall, they can't just give that job to their daughter or their son. They have to post it publicly so that we could get candidates to apply and get the best candidate for the money, right? But what happens when you go to most city halls? You got mom working over here, and then you got their kid working in the same room next to them. How the hell their kid straight out of high school get that job? Working for the government over there, that nice paying job with the government benefits and health care and all that stuff. Straight out of high school. Was that the best candidate? They probably were guaranteed that job. They put it on the posting on their website for a day, and then they were like, "Oh, that's filled," and then they give it to their kid. So you still got nepotism that goes on. Same thing happens in condos associations. You get somebody on the board. You get a lady. She's like, "Well, my husband owns a landscaping business. We should make him the landscaper." Okay. Oh, well, my wife, she's an attorney. She should be the attorney on retainer for the complex. Okay, we'll have her as the retainer. So now they're not pricing out or putting it up for professional bids, where people are putting bids in for the job for the lowest price, for the best candidate, to try to get that job. Instead, you're just assigning it to someone, and they may be charging a lot of money. and they may not be the best candidate to do the job either. So this is where you start seeing that those monthly maintenance charges are starting to those reserves that were collected from the monthly maintenance charges are starting to dwindle. Uh-oh, time to raise the monthly maintenance fee because of expenses. Or nepotism. It's basically nepotism is when you get a job because you know somebody. You have an inside connection. Mom works at City Hall. She got me a job there, right? So, look, you guys all see this commercial before? By the way, look at the building behind them. This is a condo. In this complex, they're standalone buildings, or they may have 2 units attached to each other. If you look at the backgrounds throughout this commercial, let me once again optimize the audio and play.
We love our new.
Oh, I got to jack up the volume on that. You ain't going to hear that at all. Let me get my Zoom controls out of the way and go.
Neighborhood's great.
Amazing school district. The HOA has been very involved.
These shrubs aren't board approved. You need to break down your cardboard.
Thank you.
Violation. Violation.
I see you met SIP. Yep.
At least Geico makes bundling our home and car insurance easy.
It does help us save a bunch of money.
2 inches over regulation.
Thanks, Cynthia.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
Yeah, some of these condo associations, you get these people, they walk around with their clipboards like that, looking for violations of rules so that they could give you fines or penalties. This lady, she's out there like cutting down your decorative doors because you didn't get permission. She's cutting down your mailbox with a chainsaw because it's 2 inches above regulation in its height. Oh, man. But look, that's not the only goof. Look, here's some more invasive rules. Look at this one on the Realtor.com website. Here's one where the HOA, Homeowners Association, requires homeowners to leave their garage doors open during the day or face $200 fines per day.
Oh, so you have to keep it open?
Yeah, they want you to keep it open. You have to keep it open, or you get a $200 fine per day.
What's the reason?
Look at this picture. Who wants to keep their garage door open to have the whole neighborhood go in and see this?
Right.
First of all kinds of pests and rodents could possibly come in, or thieves, or what have you. People can look at your armpit of your house, because that's usually a place where you store crap, But their reasoning behind it is a lot of people were finishing out their garages, and instead of having it for their garage and storage, they were having people living in them. So the association wanted to check on this by putting a rule that all residents needed to leave their garage doors open during the day. Who the hell wants that?
Nobody wants
that's a reason enough to want to move out of there.
Right.
Yeah. So or face $200 fine. Yeah. So you have to have the garage doors open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, or else face a $200 fine.
Who buys that? I don't think so.
Well, how about this one? Hold on a second. There's another one. What about this one? A condo association. Let me click that link and open that. A man battles with his HOA for 7 years over a $500 mailbox and wins. So basically, he just bought and built his own mailbox, brand new one. And then he got a notice from the HOA that, well, they're going to remove his mailbox and they're going to replace it with this other mailbox and bill him $500 for the mailbox. So the man said no. And then he started fighting it. As a matter of fact, he went to court over it. So there's his mailbox. But this man, he said that he paid $35 for a charming and functional cedar mailbox just months earlier. that's not a cedar mailbox. So apparently they replaced it with this and charged him $500 for it.
Wow.
So he fought in court for 7 years, paying $33,000 in legal fees to fight being required to pay $500 for a mailbox. He paid $33,000 in legal fees and eventually won. He did it on principle. The guy was a physicist with NASA, so I guess he had the money, but so he fought this on principle. Anyone? So his argument was it was never about the mailbox. I care about the precedent it sets. He says we just put a new roof on our house that cost over $100,000. What would stop the HOA from coming back and saying we don't like your cedar roof and we want you to put a new roof on after you just paid $100,000 to do it? So they can't just make up rules like that. So he did it on principle. That's why he was fighting it. So let's see. So Strong, that's the guy's last name, faced fines of $100 for every month his home lacked a magical $500 mailbox after the HOA's deadline of January 2013. He refused to fork it over and attended board meetings to air his grievances. Although some of his neighbors agreed with him, many caved for fear of making waves and even being foreclosed on. So Strong took his case to court. Some said that they're trying to bankrupt our HOA, but we actually only sued them for $1, he says. We wanted the board to admit they were wrong. All of which provokes the question, what are your rights as a homeowner? And just as important, what can be done to keep HOA shutdowns from happening to you? Okay, well, I'm going to get into the whole article there, but you get the gist of it. They could put a bunch of ridiculous rules in place. Like I had a listing. I had a listing one time in a condo complex, and it was a nice listing. The guy maintained the place really good. He bought condos. He owned several condos there, and anytime he had a tenant moved out, he did updates. He updated the kitchen with new cabinets and countertops, made it really really pretty. Put in new appliances. Put in a washer and dryer and over and under one in the closet there in that main area. And so I took pictures of everything, put it on the MLS, and advertised it on other websites, real estate websites, to try to find a renter. And he called me up in a panic and sent me an email with pictures. He's like, the board is threatening me. The HOA board is threatening me. We're not supposed to have a washer or dryer in the unit. And you put a picture there of a washer and dryer that I have in my unit. So they now want to come in and inspect it. And if I have it, they want to fine me. So I got to get it out of there really quick. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. Okay. So I pulled down the ad, but they already snapped a picture of the ad and they sent it to him with it circled, the picture of the washer and dryer, saying this is in violation, because it was one of those condo complexes that used to be apartment complex that was then converted to condos, and they got their own laundry rooms, and those are not built to be condos with the strong enough plumbing that everybody should have a washer and dryer in their unit. So if everybody got a washer and dryer in their unit, the additional water pressure from the washer and dryer could mess up the pipes a little bit or clog them with lint and stuff like that. So they put that rule in place. So he was going to get in trouble over that. But look, the HOA was stalking like Craigslist of the apartments for rent section to see if anybody from their complex had an ad there that violated their terms. Talk about that lady walking around with her husband there with the clipboard there and cutting down the mailbox with a chainsaw. These people can get pretty aggressive like that.
That means they have too much time on their hands.
Entirely. Power goes straight to their head. They got a lot of time on their hands, right?
So let me just clear. So in condo, you cannot change appliances or any anything that you want to have change? Like,
Sure you can. But if it was you got to follow the bylaws of the
okay.
HOA. And their bylaws say that you cannot have a washer and dryer unit in your apartment because these are this construction was originally an apartment building, and they have a separate laundry room for that. And they don't want to risk the old pipes getting messed up
I
by
see.
having the washers there, so they don't allow it. That's one of their rules.
You just have to follow whatever they're saying. That way we can make a change, right?
So shouldn't you want to know what the rules are before you buy into that condo complex? Find out if you can have a washer and dryer in the unit, even though somebody may be selling one that has a washer and dryer, but it's not supposed to be there. You know, you could avoid some of those problems. That's why whenever we buy into condos, we always ask for a copy of the HOA's rules and the bylaws, the CC&Rs. And we also want a copy of their financials for the last 2 to 3 years. All right, so creation of condos are regulated by the Horizontal Properties Act. Certain tenants cannot be evicted during condo conversions, which we're going to go over in the next coming slide. Owners of condos have income tax advantages identical to those of single-family homeowners. And condos can be any architectural style: single detached dwellings, multi-units, attached housing, high-rises, garden apartments, townhouses, etc. And here's that definition of reserves that I verbally told you. I have it here on this slide. It expands it a little bit further than what they have there on the HOA, because I also show my advice, you know, of what you should be looking for as a real estate agent when dealing with condominiums. When you look at the financials, we want to look at the reserve account. We want to make sure that they have at least 2 to 3 months operating expenses to run the entire complex if they didn't take in another penny today. Otherwise, we know that it's probably being mismanaged and there's not enough money in the account, and that it is your monthly association fee is probably going to be going up soon. That's a good indication by checking out this. All right. I put together this little chart for a side-by-side of condos and co-ops. With a condo, you own real estate. Co-op, you own stock, and you get a lease, the proprietary lease, right? Condo, you get a mortgage bill. Co-op, you got to buy with cash or a personal loan. Condos, you get a tax bill. No tax bill with co-ops. You actually bill it into your monthly maintenance charge. CAM charge for the common area maintenance you have with a condo. It's higher with cooperatives because they include your tax bill and heating and maintenance and all that other stuff. HOA application and approval is required for co-ops, not for condos. HOAs have a minimum credit score requirement for co-ops, not for condos. Condos are managed by a homeowners association, the HOA. The co-ops are managed by a board of directors. Condos, you get your own homeowners insurance. Co-ops, you get renters insurance. Condos can be rented. Co-ops, they usually cannot be rented unless there's 10 or more units and you've been trying to sell it for no more for at least 4 months for a price no greater than what you got into it. And income tax advantages are identical for both condos and co-ops. And for co-ops, if your monthly maintenance charge is not being paid, it could affect your neighbors, but not in condos. In a condo, each unit's a financial entity unto its own. Your neighbor can get foreclosed on and it does not affect you. So once again, here's the condominium conversion. If you buy a building, an apartment building, multifamily house, you can convert it to a condominium. They call that a conversion. So a conversion is when you convert an apartment building or a multi-unit building into a condo by deeding each separate unit for sale and then creating an HOA, bylaws, CC&Rs. You charge a monthly maintenance charge or fee for taking care of the common areas. Creation is regulated by the state's Horizontal Properties Act, and it requires approval 3 years and 2 months before the conversion may start, if it's not vacant. And who cannot be evicted from a condominium conversion? Well, if the tenants meet all of these following criteria, they could remain as tenants for the next 40 years. They have to be people who are age 62 and older, or certain disabled persons, and if they lived there for at least 2 years before the conversion began, and their income is no more than 3 times their county per capita average income, or in any case, no more than $50,000 a year. If they meet all those requirements and you want to do a condominium conversion, you cannot evict that tenant for 40 years. So then at that point, you can't evict them until they're 102. And at that point, you're just mean. Right? But you need to know who can't be evicted from a condo conversion. And what is a condo conversion? Okay, so here we could do these highlights here of the same notes from the previous slide that I just had. They're right here. So on page 127, you can just put a highlighted box around it all if you don't want to waste your highlighter there, but that's who cannot be evicted from a condominium conversion.
One minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, so a townhouse. What is a townhouse? A townhouse is multi-level attached housing that is separated by a shared common party wall, right? What's a party wall? It's a wall that separates 2 units in attached housing, right? So a townhouse is multi-level housing that is a multi-level attached housing. That's what the architectural style is of a townhouse. And simply looking at a townhouse gives you no clue as to what form of ownership it is, whether it's fee simple ownership or condominium ownership. You can't tell just by looking. Although I could tell you, you could probably tell just by looking if it's not in great condition, or if the different units, have different colors and different wacky decorations and colored front doors and different types of stair railings and stuff. You could bet it's probably fee simple ownership, and there's no condominium there association whose rules that you need to follow, because they like to keep things uniform. So there can be hints sometimes. Now, so let's highlight the term townhouse is used to describe an architectural style, not a form of ownership, which buildings share a party wall. Townhouse can be condominiums, or they could be owned in fee simple. Okay.
Yeah.
Put together this slide, condos versus townhouse, because sometimes people mix them up. A condominium is a form of ownership, whereas a townhouse is an architectural style. Often townhouses are condos, but we get people who call our offices all the time that they think they're two different things. They're like, yeah, I want to buy a townhouse. I don't need to. I don't want to have to worry about. But I don't want any of those condos. I want to buy a townhouse, but I don't want any of those condos. I don't want to have to worry about snow removal or cutting the grass or anything like that. So then I start rolling my eyes, and I'm like, well, so what you're looking for is a townhouse that is a condo. Because a townhouse is just an architectural style. So why are they telling me they don't want a condo? Well, because they don't want the apartment style architectural style. They want the 3-level, a multi-level, 2 to 3 level attached housing. Sometimes they have garages underneath them, but that's what a townhouse is. It's attached housing, multi-level attached housing. And often they are often they are part of a condominium complex. But people sometimes mix up condominium with thinking about the apartment style condos. They're thinking the architectural style of a condo, associating it to the one with 4 walls like an apartment, right? So don't mix up the architectural style with the form of ownership. Condominium is a form of ownership. You have fee simple ownership of 2 things, everything from the paint on the interior walls inward and a proportionate share of the common area elements, which everybody shares in. And you got to follow the HOA's rules, right? Townhouse is an architectural style. It's multi-level attached housing that shares a common party wall. Okay? That's the difference between townhouses and condos. Now, I said you can't tell if a townhouse is a condo or not simply by looking at it. Well, I told you that sometimes you can when they're not all uniform or not all being maintained the same or have different design features to them. It's probably not a condo because condos, they like to keep everything uniform. So here's an example of a picture I took of some townhouses, some old ones that are over 100 years old from my town on one of the main roads. You got 2 over here per building. This is all one building attached. It looks like it's separate buildings. These are all one building here of townhouses. So well, this is only 2 stories. But look, even on just the one that's brown here at the end, they got different color railings or different types of railings even. Different framing around the door, different type of a storm door. Look at these ones, different storm doors, different type of railing than this one, different colors that are wacky and don't even match. Different types of roofs even. This one's shingled roof. This one looks like it's siding on the roof there. Yeah, and then look at this building. Even on the same unit, it doesn't share a pattern where it's even alternating patterns, It's just all wacky how they just choose different colors there. So here you could get a pretty good idea that this is not a condo. And it's not. I know somebody who lives in one of these. They said that it's not a condo. And I was like, yep, that confirms my suspicion. Because if it was, it'd all be uniform. If it was, you wouldn't have this one on the end over here with brush growing over it and the lattice falling off. It would be maintained better, It's uniform. The look would be more uniform. All right.
Do you have condo pictures? Images?
Well, yeah. I mean, any condo complex. I mean, condos are architectural styles, and you're asking for pictures of condos. Well, condo is a form of ownership.
I know, but do they have common wall or no?
It could.
Good.
It could be a single detached house, or it could be units that are attached to each other. It could be like the apartment style. It could be the townhouse style. So that's why I wanted to stop when I could go out and pull up pictures of condominium complexes that I know are condominium complexes. But in reality, I want to stop right there and say there is no picture of a condo because condo is a form of ownership.
I see.
It could be any architectural style.
Mhm.
So timeshares. Anybody ever hear of timeshares before? Time sharing or timeshares? It is a form of shared ownership. So I want you to write that. Time sharing is a form of ownership. It is shared ownership. And then on page 128, you'll be highlighting a timeshare buyer has the right to cancel a timeshare contract up to 7 days after signing the contract. But that's only for new timeshares, new construction only. That's why I wrote this on the side here.
One minute. Where is the next page? All right. Page 1. Thank you, Bob, has the right to
Okay.
cancel the time 7 days after the
So
signing the contract.
time sharing is a form of shared ownership. It's for a short period of time. You could have timeshares where you own 1 week out of the year, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. It could be for a specific week or month of the year. You're sharing it. Usually it's a week out of the year you get it for. So you got yourself 51 other co-owners. All right, so penalties for licensees who violate timeshare laws, because there's all kinds of timeshare laws when it comes to selling and marketing timeshares. If you do violate timeshare laws, well, these are the sections of the law that cover timeshares. 4515-16.5 and 4515-16.79. And all the laws in between there, they cover the timeshare stuff. So the minimum fine would be $250 with a maximum of $50,000 per offense if you violate any of the timeshare laws when it comes to selling or marketing timeshares. I got a series of videos here to share with you about what a timeshare is and how you can get out of one. So let me optimize the videos for sharing here. Let me minimize mine so there's no static in it, and let's get the show on the road. All right. So here is one of several videos I'm going to show you. This first one is just a video about this guy talking about his timeshare cancellation company and some interesting things about timeshares too.
If you bought a timeshare for your family, by now you've learned the ugly truth. Timeshares are the only thing that you can buy that you don't know how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. It's like giving them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. Sounds crazy, right? The ugly truth is that this never ends. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, and 10 years ago, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind, helping good folks just like you cancel their timeshare contract. And what that means for you and your family, no more mortgage payments, no more maintenance fee surprises, and no more timeshare. So call today.
All right.
If you bought...
And there's a series that his company put out explaining what timeshares are. And that's what these next several videos that I'm going to show you are. They're really short video clips like the one we just seen, but they do a really good job explaining it. So let's see the history of timeshares to learn what a timeshare is.
We have a consumer warning to tell you about this afternoon for anyone who's trying to sell a timeshare.
Probably heard horror stories of folks going into a timeshare sales pitch and being stuck there for hours.
The maintenance fees were going up 12.5% every single year.
This is the Great American Timeshare Scam. Like most bad things, timeshare started out with really good intentions. But greed, deception, and manipulation has distorted this once creative tool that helped families vacation and turned it into a lifetime of debt for millions of families. In the 60s and 70s, timeshare was a brand new, innovative way to fund property development. And for a while, the system worked. Resorts popped up everywhere, with families owning fixed-week timeshares at a reasonable cost. So what changed? Timeshare companies became obsessed with the bottom line. Profits, money, commissions. Oh my. And now, this steal of a deal, own your vacation, you just bought a house scheme is bribing people to attend sales meetings and deceiving families into a loan that can never be repaid. Thanks for watching. This was actually just part 1 of a 3-part series on the most deceptive practices within the timeshare industry. If you're interested in learning more, watch part 2, the dark psychology of the timeshare sales meeting. In that video, we go over the manipulative and dishonest tools the timeshare salesmen use to make the sale, to make you buy. Spoiler alert, it's not a sales pitch, it's a show.
Ooh, so let's watch that show. Here's part 2, the dark psychology of the timeshares.
You own your house, why wouldn't you own your vacation? Deals like this come once in a lifetime, and you won't have access to it once you step out of this meeting.
If you've ever sat through a timeshare presentation, you've likely heard this phrase or something like it before. This technique is called the exploding offer, or what is more commonly known as FOMO. And unfortunately, it's not the only technique they're using on you to make the deal. This is the dark psychology of the timeshare sales meeting. So how do people find themselves in awful timeshare situations? Simple. Timeshare salesmen understand humanity's dark psychology. For example,
if you don't do this now, this deal may run out and be gone forever.
What does your brain instinctively want to do now that you've heard this?
Do it before it's too late.
This tactic is known as the scarcity effect. Scarcity pushes people to make impulsive decisions like buying up all the toilet paper during a global pandemic because...
What if we run out of all the toilet paper?
Right. Very rational. We're not going to go too far down that rabbit hole, but generally a feeling of regret follows impulse buys. Stop me if you know it. Buyer's remorse. Another example is the law of reciprocity, where people feel obligated to stay for the sales meeting because they were given free tickets to an event or a free dinner. This is why they... Watch the glass. This is why they bribe people to come to the sales presentation, because it makes people feel like they should give back their time in exchange for these gifts. And these are just a few examples of the dark psychology timeshare salesmen use. They are masters of persuasion. This is why it's so important to be aware of the psychological influences that affect decision making. That way, you never find yourself in a timeshare presentation to begin with.
Ready for vacations for life?
Keep on walking, pal. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. You just finished part 2 of our 3-part series on the deceptive practices to look out for in the timeshare industry. The next video is the timeshare contract. In that video, we go over why the timeshare companies will pressure you into that first sale, because once they've got you, they're not going to let you go, at least not without a fight.
Ooh.
Wow.
You own your house.
So let's watch timeshare. This is the last of the videos in this 3-part series talking about the contract.
Timeshare is an investment. You'll be able to rent it out. You'll be able to travel anywhere you want for life. This is the timeshare contract. I'm going to save you the heartache and explain why the timeshare companies try so hard to sell you timeshare. Because the first sale is just the beginning of the ultimate con that's about to destroy your finances. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit. If they can convince you to buy a timeshare, they're guaranteed consistent yearly income without having to give you anything but imaginary points. What a deal for the timeshare company, right? Free maintenance paid for by you for their property that they actually own. They're called maintenance fees, and they go up every single year. A big fat commission because timeshare barely costs the company anything. Seriously, sometimes that salesperson is getting over 30%.
Oh.
And get this, once they've got you, it's nearly impossible to get out. If you try to cancel, they'll tell you they can't do anything. You signed a contract. They may even tell you to sell it yourself. They definitely won't buy it back. They don't want it, and they know it has no value. But if you try to sell it, it turns out no one else actually wants to buy it either. Spoiler alert, there is no market for timeshare resales. None, zero, zilch, nil market for it. Look at this eBay listing for a timeshare. For $1. We've even seen people offer gift cards to take their timeshare. No, I'm good, man.
But it's an investment.
Get out of here! What's crazier is that these timeshares still won't sell, so families are stuck in the timeshare scam, paying all their outrageous fees. And then, when they finally had enough, they're out more money for another service to help them get rid of it. Now, hypothetically, hang with me here, let's say you actually did get that timeshare sold. This means someone else now has your timeshare, which is perfect, right? You no longer have to deal with this financial burden. But there could be a catch, and we've seen this happen over and over. If the person who bought your timeshare stops paying and the timeshare company comes calling, guess who could be on the hook for all of that debt? Yep, the original owner of the timeshare. Oh, shh. And I say this to really show you how hard getting out of a timeshare is. There are plenty of other stories and examples of this kind of unfortunate situation, but I think you get the sad point. Oftentimes, once an owner has tried a couple different avenues to get out, they begin to lose hope. This is what the timeshare companies count on. They want you to sit down, shut up, and pay them your money without actually getting anything in return. They seem more like a mafia than a reputable business.
I'm going to sell you a timeshare you can't refuse.
But thankfully, you don't have to be hopeless. It seems like one of the only ways you can actually cancel your timeshare and all its related debt and fees is through a timeshare exit company. It isn't easy, and it can take up to 3 years, but it is possible. The only caveat per se is that it needs to be a reputable company. There are a few good ones out there, but as these timeshare exit companies have gotten bigger, the timeshare companies have actually started suing them into oblivion. We know this for a fact because they sued us too, but we beat them in federal court for the right to help people like you get relief from the burden of the never-ending lies and fees. This video series only scratches the surface on the most deceptive practices within the timeshare industry. If you want more videos like this, hit that like button. And if you have experienced any of these tactics yourself, tell your story below. It helps people understand that they are not alone, and the situation they found themselves in is nothing to be embarrassed about. Also, if you haven't seen the other videos in this series yet, make sure to check out The Great American Timeshare Scam and The Dark Psychology of the Timeshare Meeting. What you discover may shock you.
Anybody ever go to one of those timeshare meetings?
Yeah, they got me in Florida.
Yeah.
Timeshare is an investment.
So
you'll be able to rent it out.
So he's not wrong. So he's not wrong in what he was saying there. You feel like they trap you there. They offer you some free stuff, and hopefully you
they
get.
do give you 7 days to get out of it.
Well, they have to. If it's new construction timeshare. If it's a resale timeshare, there's no 7-day right of rescission. It's only for new construction.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I got the new constructions. I was like, nope, I don't want this.
I went to the timeshares too, and I went to one of those presentations in Vegas. Yeah, they had a couple of pretty girls attack me coming off the escalator, because that's what they do.
Wow.
Then they said, yeah, come to the seminar, try and convince you to come to the seminar. Okay, so, all right. I'll get a free steak dinner and something else out of it. I forget what it was. So I was like, all right, just for attending. And they're like, oh, well, the meeting's in the morning anyway. A shuttle bus will come pick you up, take you to the property so you can see the property. And then you go for the presentation, and then they give you your tickets for your free steak dinner or whatever, and you'll be out of there. And I was like, all right. And they're like, well, what are you doing in the morning anyway? I was like, okay. So I went off to that timeshare meeting, and I liken it to a 3-ring circus, because you go through 3 rounds of salespeople. First you go to the presentation. You got to watch that presentation being taught there, and or shown to you on somebody will talk to you, and then they'll also present on screen some kind of a movie or something about their properties and how it works and everything. And then they'll tell you afterwards, okay, go out into the main room now. There's a bunch of tables set up. There's a buffet set up. You can get your free buffet. Grab your stuff, go sit at the table, but don't congregate. If you came here as a single person, sit at a table alone. If you came here as a couple, sit at the table there as a couple. There's enough tables for everybody, but we don't want everybody congregating. And then a salesperson will come out to answer any questions that you have about the timeshares, okay? And then we could get you your free tickets and you could be on your way, okay? So now you go do that, and then the salespeople come out, and they start hammering you. They really want to try to get you to buy. It's high pressure sales tactics all the way. Now, for me at least, and at these things, this is the way it's usually set up, is the first round of salespeople that you see and you meet, they're very beautiful people. I swear they could be models. All the girls, the guys, they're like the most beautiful, highly trained salespeople that you'll meet. Is in the timeshare business in this first round of people that come out. Why do they do that? Well, it's hard to say no to somebody you're attracted to. You don't want to seem cheap, right? This is actually some of the psychology. This is some more of that dark psychology of the training that they give you. He said it was just scratching the surface, and he's right. But if you manage to get past them, then you're going to have to deal with a more experienced manager, maybe not as pretty or handsome, but they've been in the business for a longer time. They're even more experienced, and they're going to try to get you on that hard sale even more. And then if you manage to get past that guy, then they'll put you off to a manager's office somewhere that you could be secluded and on your own as you wait for the manager to get you your free tickets for your steak dinner or whatever it is, so that you could get out of there. So now they got you sitting in this room, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. And eventually this guy will pop up. Okay, so for this whole event, it was really slick the way they did it, the one that I went to, because they had cameras in the ceiling. So even when we were watching that initial presentation, usually they have salespeople sitting next to you. But one of the new modern techniques is the salespeople are in a room next door, and they got a video camera. They got cameras in the ceiling watching the crowd while you're watching the presentation, and they're viewing the same presentation in the other room. And then when you're like, "Oh, honey, look at that," they're looking and seeing what's on the video now. So now they're taking their notes, and they're like, they know what buttons to press later out in the room when they're trying to do their sales pitch, because they know it was of interest to you. It's really slick.
Yep.
But now, if you get through those first 2 rounds, and they put you in that manager's room, now you're just waiting for your free tickets for your show or dinner or whatever it is that they offered. They'll have you waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So now I didn't look in that room. I should have, because I was observing the whole thing, trying to figure out, their sales tactics. That's the whole reason why I went there, really, not really necessarily for the free stuff.
Right.
So while I was there, I was like, you know what? Let me make it about the free stuff. Let's see what I could get out of them. So I kind of turned it into a little game for myself. So I was sitting and waiting, and then I was finally like, where the hell is this guy? I start standing up, and boom, there he shows up. He's a old timer, been in the game for a long time, great personality. Very adept to sales. And he comes in the room, and his number one job when he first meets me is to try to break the tension, because the person sitting in that room is probably pissed off and wants to get the hell out of there already, because they've been already captive for several hours at this timeshare meeting. They want to get their free shit and get out. Okay, so that was basically me. I'm there at that point already, like, I don't even give a crap about this anymore. I just want to get the hell out of here. So I start standing up, and then this guy walks in, steps in the door. He's like, "How you doing?" And he had everything going on, and picture this, an old guy doing this, so it's like you got to crack a smile at least, it's like, what the hell is this guy doing? But that was his job now, to break the tension, to cut the air that was getting really thick in that room, And so he achieved his goal by making you laugh, right? And then he sits down, and you got the good personality. "Oh, so what brings you here today, folks? Were you just coming for the free stuff? Or do you actually want to buy a timeshare?" You say, "You know how it goes. You want the free stuff, right?" And then he starts, going into it. "Okay, well, let's get this in order, get you your free stuff." But in the meantime, now he turns it and starts trying to do the sales pitch again.
Right.
To get you to buy. What was it? The reason why you didn't want to buy today? I mean, something was of interest enough for you to come down here today. Well, couldn't have just been the free stuff, So what? Didn't you like our properties and what was it? Was it the price? Yeah, if you did buy from the salespeople out there, there's only so much they could do on that. But I'm the manager here. I could do this for you. And then he busts out his pen. He's like, "What if I did this?" And he puts it on a piece of paper. It's like, "What if I did this to the price, and I did this, and I could bring the price down to that? Would that be enough to make you sign today?" I'm serious. This is what they do.
I know.
This is exactly what they do. And it's not, "Oof, you're a tough negotiator." I tell you what, this is as low as I could go. What if let me do away with that, and I put this price down, and so you get all your free stuff that we promised you, and I'll give you this. This is as low as I could go, though. Would that be enough for you to sign today? You still, you are a tough cookie. Well, there's nothing much I could do with the price beyond what we got here. What is it? Is it the interest rate? Yeah, that interest rate is kind of high. I tell you what if I could get the interest rate? I could talk to our finance guy, see if I could get the interest rate down to this. Would that be enough to get you to sign today?
I remember now.
And then they'd go until they get to the point that they're like, "This is the lowest I could go. This is the lowest price. This is the lowest interest rate." Wow, man, you are a tough negotiator. Okay, so you're going to get it at this price. You're going to get it at this lower interest rate. That's as low as we could go, though, on that interest rate. You're killing me here. I got to have some meat on the bone. I got to make some money and feed my kids, So there's, and this is how they talk,
Right.
You still get all your free stuff. You'll get this price and at this interest rate. Oh, my God, you're killing me here. Here. Is that enough? Is that going to be enough to get you to sign today? So then I'm like, So I'll get it at that price, at that interest rate, and I'll still get my free stuff. I was like, "Well, you know what? I'm going to be here for a couple more days in Vegas." He's like, "Am I actually going to be able to cash in and get this free stuff while I'm here on this trip, or do I got to mail in a certificate redeemable to get my free steak dinner or attend a show? Do I get the actual ticket so I can attend the show while I'm here, or do I got to mail it in?" And he said, "Well, you usually gotta mail it in to get the thing." I was like, "I'm not interested in that." And they go, "Well, hold on. Let me see what I could do for you. I think I could get those tickets for you, and I could get those coupons that you could use them now." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "But I'm also going to be here. I'm staying at this hotel. I forget which hotel it was at the time." And I was like, "Carrot Top. Remember that comedian Carrot Top? He had a show in one of those Vegas hotels, the one shaped like a pyramid. I forget what it's called. The Luxor. I was like, "Well, I'm staying at the Luxor. If you give me tickets to the Carrot Top show, in addition to the steak dinner and this other show that you were giving me for, and you know what? I'm going to be here for 3 more days. And anywhere I got to walk between hotels or anywhere I got to walk, my sneakers are melting to the ground. I swear to God, it's so hot here in August. I was like, I'm gonna be here for 3 more days. If you could get me a car with working air conditioning for the next 3 days and then cover that bill, and then give me the Carrot Top shows tickets that I could go now while I'm here. I want 2 tickets for that though. And can I get the free steak dinner? Make it 2 free steak dinners because I'm with somebody. And can I also get that car? If you could get all this at that same price and that interest rate, I'll sign here today. And he's like, well, hold on a second. He's like, we usually don't do that, go getting people cars and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, well then, I really don't need it. I'm really not that interested. And he said, hold on. Let me see what I could do for you. So now the guy goes and he disappears for a while. And like 15 minutes later, he's like poking his head and he's like, I'm working on it. Hang tight. I'm working on it. Just bear with me, okay? Because this isn't the normal thing we do. So hang tight. And I was like, okay. Another 10, 15 minutes goes by and he's like, still working on it. I'm still working on it. Hold on. And then he comes in.
Here all day.
And I was already there for a couple hours. What the hell? So then he comes in and he's like, okay, well, here are your tickets so that you could get that steak dinner now. You don't need to mail in to get them redeemable, that they mail it to you later, because most people won't ever do that, And here's your tickets to the Carrot Top comedy show in your hotel and the tickets to that other show that we promised you. And your rental car's on the way.
Are you going to sign now?
So I signed. I was like, okay, well, where do I sign now? I'm going to get all this stuff. I'll sign. So I signed to buy. I didn't need a checkbook. I didn't need to give him a credit card or anything for down payments or anything. I'm just signing on the dotted line, right? And so I bought a timeshare. Knowing it's the worst purchase you could ever make in your life. Okay, I bought a timeshare. And I got all my free stuff. And I negotiated more free stuff out of them that they normally don't give. And then when I got home 3 days later, before I open the front door, I open up the storm door, and right in there's a FedEx document with all my paperwork for my purchase of my timeshare. So before I even unpack my luggage, I just put it off to the side. I open up that FedEx document. I took the cover page off and I signed it, and I put it in that prepaid self-addressed envelope, return envelope that they had for FedEx, and then I sent that off. That was my right of rescission, my right to cancel the contract within 7 days.
That's what I did.
I didn't buy a timeshare at all. At the end of the day,
I did the same thing.
Yeah, don't hate the player, hate the game. It's your game. I just played it better, Right. I negotiate whatever I did.
They still call me and be like, we would like to rent out your timeshare. I was like, I canceled that back then.
Yeah, I didn't buy no timeshare. What timeshare? I canceled that shit.
You're right. I don't have that timeshare.
That's what I did. I never ended up buying the timeshare. So I signed the paperwork to get all the free stuff.
Because I got free dinner. I got free tickets to all the amusement parks in Florida.
I just tried to see as far as I could take it. I mean, if I was in Florida, I'd probably also have negotiated like you rent me out so I could use some of those wave riders or something like that.
I remember they show you whatever they are selling, they show you that house and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I remember while you're talking, I just remember in long time back, might be 15 years back, I went to Pennsylvania for something, this timeshare. We like whole day it went through, but we got so many, like a big TV screen, so many deals. I got it.
Yeah. I mean, they'll give you anything. Like during that timeshare show that I was just showing you, those series of videos, one of the things the guy showed you, he said the timeshare salespeople, the licensed real estate agents that are doing these timeshare sales, their commissions are upwards of 30%.
Oh, wow.
That's how profitable these things are. So do they care if they give you some free crap to get you to sign on the dotted line? Cost of business, right?
Yeah.
So, however, knowing what we've learned in chapter 2 about marketing and advertising, And in chapter 3, we actually learned about, can you give something for free to the public? Yes, but it has to be no strings attached. So even if you don't sign, if they agree to give it to you, they have to give it to you free, and they got to give it to you for free with no strings attached.
No string attached means?
Means it's not contingent upon you doing business with them.
Okay.
Okay. Now, even though we learned that New Jersey, they changed the law where you can give stuff for free with strings attached. However, not until the Real Estate Commission puts the rules in place on how they're going to do it, which they still have not done. This law was passed in 2021. They still haven't put the rules in place for how that's going to be done. So you still can't do it in New Jersey. So as far as your exams go, if you get any questions on your exams about, can a salesperson ever offer anything for free to the public? Yes, they can. As long as there's no strings attached, not contingent upon you doing business with them. Okay?
So my question is, whenever they do this kind of they give the advert, they do what they're getting from doing it. If they don't have any nobody's to sign the contract.
Dotted line.
I'm sorry?
They're getting you to sign on the dotted line. They're offering you for something for free because they're trying to bribe you to sign the contract to buy this property. That's what they're doing. That's what they're getting out of it.
But if nobody signed it, end of the day, what they're getting it?
They have people sign though. Granted, the majority of people don't, but they get a couple suckers that do. And boom, they have these presentations every single day. It's not like I was scheduled for the only one that they're having this week. They probably got several of them each day. They've got these girls and guys out grabbing people coming off the escalators in different hotels all over the Vegas Strip, trying to get you to come to their presentation. They get people all the time. All the time. This is always at vacation destination resorts where they probably got you too, right?
Oh yes.
Were you on vacation? Yes. Yeah. What about you? Tanya? Did they get you at a vacation place, a resort place?
Yes. I wasn't on vacation. My daughter was down there for cheerleading. And I was in a hotel, and they send like a postcard or flyers, and you get free tickets to Orlando Studios.
Yeah.
If you participate in this meeting, and that's what
Where's this at, though? It was in Florida somewhere?
Florida.
Okay, so Florida itself is a vacation destination resort place, So, they get you in these types of places,
Yeah, where they get, crowds from all different over the world.
Yep.
And the way they got me, it's like, well, you go on vacation, which I do take my family on vacation every year. And he's like, well, you spend this much money when you buy hotels and this.
Yeah, imagine you have a condo that you could already have. You could go on vacation every year, and it'll cost you a lot cheaper than getting the hotel and reserving. And if you can get the reservations, even I know that's another part of their sales pitch. That's all that is.
Okay, these real estate guys, they earn lots of money in time sharing. If the real estate guy works as a time sharing,
they could make a lot of money.
A lot of money, right?
Yeah, you don't just have a lot of salespeople standing around all day and going to these presentations and not getting paid. Who would continue doing that if you're not getting paid?
Right.
A lot. That's why the fines are so high in these things if you violate the terms, if you violate the laws pertaining to timeshares. Okay. So here's an architectural style guide. I'm actually in the process of working a better one with actual photos, but here's an architectural style guide for the Realtors magazine. If I were to click on it, this is the Realtor magazine for National Association of Realtors. They have an architectural style guide. It's very basic, showing you the different types of architectural styles. And I'm trying to put together a more detailed one right now. I'm actually in the process of doing that because I've been promising it for years and I haven't gotten around to it, but I'm finally doing it now. Where it's a better architectural style guide, shows you all these different types of architectural styles. All right. You need to be familiar with architectural styles if you're going to be in the real estate business. You get a listing, you got to put in the MLS what's the architectural style of the building you're selling, you know? So you got to familiarize yourself with the different types of architectural styles.
Wow, some of the name I never heard it. Spanish electric. These are the types, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but some of these are kind of based off of or rooted from another style. It's like another version of like this looks like it's a single level
Ranch.
property. So that's a ranch style. So it's just another playoff of a ranch. Look, most common in the Southwest and Florida, Spanish style architecture takes cues from the missions of the early Spanish missionaries. Some of the styles here, it includes details from the Moorish, Byzantine, Gothic, and Renaissance architectural styles. The houses usually have low-pitched tiled roofs, white stucco walls, and rounded windows and doors. Other elements may be sloped, so they go on. It's basically another spin on a ranch-style house, but there's certain differences in its architecture or its design. So even though it's a one level, it's a ranch, it's just another version of a ranch.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Regions, they probably have like some kind of a stone tile floor because in the South it's hot, so things that keep it cool, like tiled floors instead of carpeting, tend to be more common, right?
Yeah, but my question is, these are the name means I never heard shotgun, Spanish electric. I just heard like a split level, single houses like that.
Okay, well, I'm going to show you what some of the more common architectural styles are. Like some of these, like French Provisional, Georgia, the Gothic Revival, Greek Revival. There's a lot of but which ones are more common in our area? Well, Victorians, Tudors. You could see stick style, split levels.
Ranch.
It's not called a shotgun in this area, but there's another version of this one. It's like a long, narrow house. I forget the actual term of it off the top of my head right now. Second Empire, you can see a lot of this stuff in Rahway area. Shingled roofs like this, shed style. Okay. Saltbox, not so much. Regency, I've seen some of these in some areas. They tend to be more richy areas. Ranch style houses. Now, there's a lot of different spins on the ranch style house, though. What is a ranch style? Ranch style,
it's like
you need to have a bigger property for it. It's a single level house.
Single level house.
But you have different versions of ranches. You have a ranch, you have a raised ranch. You know what a raised ranch is? The basement is partially out of the ground. But that's because raised ranches, they could usually be found in hilly areas where, like, the front of the house, the basement is below ground. The back of the house, it's above ground because you're on a hill that's like this. So the basement is out, and you could have a walkout sliding door coming out of the basement on the backside. Or they could have
God bless you
beneath it. So there's a lot of different spins on the ranch style. The architectural style guide I'm putting together right now, I'm going to put it on our website and our Facebook page. And, I'll be putting pictures out there and stuff on different social media for us. So, take note of those our social media links that I've shared with you guys in the email for joining the class and for the class notes. I have there our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Career Path Academy, no spaces. And follow our page because I do make posts there that can be interesting and informational, news, and information that you could just take and put on your own websites and social media and repurpose it, And I give away free stuff every now and then, like Amazon Fire TV sticks, C Streak dinner cruises, all kinds of laser tape measures, real estate calculators, all kinds of stuff like that. So just for liking our page and following it, okay? So I'm putting together a more detailed architectural style guide, but either way, it's important for you to be familiar with different architectural styles. Like the colonial, there's a lot of spins off of that. Look, the Dutch colonial, colonials. Here's a colonial, craftsman, wherever that was, Cape Cod. I live in a Cape Cod style house. My house doesn't look anything like this because I have an attached garage to it. And the roof in the front is pitched down towards the front. So it looks different than this. There's several different styles of Cape Cod's houses too. You've got smaller Cape Cods and larger Cape Cods. Smaller Cape Cods have an awkward layout. You got mid-size and the larger ones. And they're, you know, mine has the pitched roof forward and to the back, has an attached garage to it. All right, so there's different architectural styles. And here, you could also look at the architectural style elements. So if you were to click on that, you could see like different arches, different style of arches on architectural styles, right?
Mm-hmm.
The different types of columns, if you see columns in a house. The different dormers, you know, like sticking out of the roof, you know, the windows, you know, like this, the different types of dormers, what are they called? Different types of moldings in a house.
Do we have to remember it, for example, this kind of houses, what is that called?
No. But things like this for roofs, like this is a cross gable, front gable, gambrel roof, looks like a barn style. You don't need to know that for exams or anything like that, but you may need to know the types of roofs and the types of architectural style. And some of the types of dormers. Or you could just use the term dormer. It has a dormer, you know. Like a lot of, look, here's the front windows. You know, the front windows of the house? You ever bay window? Well, that's what a bay window looks like.
Bay window, yeah, that's I know, yeah.
Window looks like, that's what a box bay looks like. Instead of coming out at angles with the glass on the sides, it comes straight out. It looks like it's in a box that's sticking out of the front of the house.
This one I know because I had Henderson they came to do the windows. That's why I know this difference, bay, bow, and box.
So it can make a difference, right? And then you have different types of casement, different types of windows. You got double hung windows, you got casement windows.
Casement windows.
Properties like this, you know. So in chapter 3, I was telling you guys you could take those classes and, you know, if you're not happy with it, they'll reimburse you. The ones about dealing with contractors and new construction, and then they had another designation class you could take for infill construction, about helping people, you know, who fix and flip houses as well. But it teaches you the basics about the architecture as well. So they teach you about elements and architectural styles and things in their thing as well. But I'm working on a nice architectural style guide for the majority of types of architectural style that we see here in our area. So I put together a little list here on this slide for you of some of the more common architectural styles we have in this area. And then it goes on to this side here. Okay, so we got the Cape Cods, colonials, Victorians, ranch, raised ranch. Bungalow is the one I was talking about. It looks like an army barracks. You know, it's a long, thin, narrow house. So that would be a bungalow. Split levels, where basically once you walk in the front door, you're walking up or downstairs to get into every room or every direction. Just a couple of stairs. You know, a couple steps. Every level seems to be on a different. Every room seems to be on a different level. Tudors, contemporaries, level houses. Bi-level houses are basically a 2-level house. You got a ground floor and a second floor that's sitting on a concrete slab with no basement. That's bi-level. You got townhouses. Those are multi-level attached housing. You got a duplex, which is a 2-family house with 2 units side by side instead of over under, which brings us to the next 2-family house, which is an over under, where you have 1 unit above the other. So Craftsman, Saltbox, Dutch Colonial, Federal, Georgian, Monterey. These are all kinds of off-spins of that. Gothic, Greek, Pueblo, Queen Anne, apartment buildings, high rises. These are all just different types of architectural styles, which I will, like I said, I'm working on a guide right now for that, and I'm pretty deep into it already, so it should be coming out soon. I should have it ready soon to show to you guys. All right, so that concludes this chapter. Let's do the key terms to review, and then we'll break for lunch. Chapter 6 is done. And there is 2 key terms to review for this chapter. So let's get started, shall we? Ownership. Key terms 1.
Title.
A title is another word that means ownership. 13 is A. Default form of ownership for those who are unmarried and not in a civil union.
Tenancy in common.
There you go. Tenants in common. 11 is B. Person named in a will to inherit real estate. Who is somebody that you name in a will to get your stuff?
Tenancy by the entitled.
Devisee.
Devisee. 2 is C. Devisee, someone you name in a will to inherit your stuff. Each partner completely liable.
Group with each partner completely liable.
Yeah, we're talking about a business here.
Yeah.
What kind of business are all the owners completely liable for any additional debts the business takes on?
General partnership.
It's a general partnership. 3 is D.
3 is D.
Remember, general partners with the day-to-day business, they're owners that work in the business. So any additional debts that business takes on, they can be held liable for paying it. Okay. So 3 was D. A non-married person with the right of survivorship.
8.
Non-married person with the right of survivorship.
Limited partnership.
Joint tenancy.
Joint tenancy. 4 is E. Because what is the only benefit of joint tenancy?
The right of survivorship.
The right of survivorship, right? So 4 is E. Business owned by one person or entity. What do we call a business that's owned by one person?
Sole proprietorship. 9.
9 is F, the sole proprietorship. Co-owners join together to carry on a business.
Partnership.
Partnership. 7.
Partnership.
Yep. Court-ordered sale and division. A court-ordered sale and division or division of the property.
Court-ordered sale and division. Partition.
That's it. Partition. 6 is H. Legal entity considered to be an artificial person.
Oh, artificial.
Corporation.
Artificial.
A corporation. 1 is I.
Yeah, is I.
Process by which co-owner automatically receives the share of the co-owner who dies. What do we call that process?
Right of survivorship.
That's the right of survivorship. 8 is J. Special ownership by married couples.
Oh, that's entity. And tenancy by entirety.
Yeah, 10 is K. Real estate ownership by only one person or entity.
That's a
Limited partnership.
12.
Tenancy and severalty.
Tenancy in severalty.
Yeah, 12. Yeah, L.
Your interests are severed from all others, so it's ownership by one person or entity. 12 is L. Group with only general partner fully liable.
Limited.
Limited partnership.
Limited partnership.
Group
So
with only general partner.
fully liable. However, you could have other partners that are limited in their liability to the extent of their initial investment in the business. So 5 is M. Those limited partners can't be held liable for any additional debts that the business takes on. Okay, so that's like if you want to start a business and you go to the Bank of Mom for a loan, and mom don't care anything about your business. She don't know anything about your business. She just hopes you're successful in all your endeavors, right? So mom becomes a limited partner in your business. She's not working the day-to-day business, but she is a partner now because she's loaned you the money for it, right? So the most that she stands to lose is her initial investment in the business. If later on you should need to take more loans for equipment or marketing or whatever it is to run your business, mom can't be held liable for paying those loans. Only you, the general partner, can be. Okay, so there's an example of how who's a general and a limited partner in a limited partnership, how that works. All right, let's do the key terms to review number 2 on the next page, 130. Co-op owner's right to a specific apartment. What gives you the right to occupy that?
Cooperative.
Co-op owner's right to a specific apartment. We know it's a co-op.
Co-op.
Board of directors? No.
Cooperative.
What gives the cooperative
Co-op
to a specific apartment that they're going to live in?
That's a cooperative, right? No. Okay.
Well, co-op is in the term, in the phrase there. Co-op. So the answer is not going to be co-op. No.
No. Sorry.
Property lease.
Lease. A proprietary lease is what gives you permission. Proprietary is a fancy name for custom. It's a custom lease. That's what gives the co-op owner the right to a specific apartment that they're going to live in. So it is a group elected to manage a cooperative.
That's the board of directors.
One is B, the board of directors. An architectural term.
Townhouses.
Townhouse, 11 is C. Stairwell, roofs, etc. that are owned by all. Parking lots, the swimming pool, the recreational facility.
Homeowners Association.
These are common elements. They're common elements. 2 is D. The stairwells, the roofs, the tennis court.
Oh, yeah. That's it. Yeah. Sorry.
Hallways. 2 is D. Apartment whose buyer receives a proprietary lease and stock in the corporation.
That is cooperative.
Cooperative. 5 is E. Fee simple ownership of a living unit.
Condominium.
3 is F. All owners in the complex.
Homeowner association.
The homeowners association to which all will belong. Remember that line? So 6 is G. Apartment house changed to condos. What do we refer to that as?
Conversion.
4 is H. Money set aside for future repairs and emergencies. Reserves, not I. Ownership for part of a year. Ownership for part of a year.
Time
sharing, 10 is J. And regulates the creation of condominiums.
Horizon proprietary set.
7 is K. Okay, so that concludes chapter 7. But let me ask you a question. Which one of these is not a form of ownership? Fee simple, condominium, timeshare, co-op.
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 Because you lease it, you don't own it.
You don't own the state. You own stock in a corporation, and you get a proprietary lease.
That's not a ownership, right?
So that's not ownership. That's the combination you can get on exams there.
So timeshare is if you sign it, is ownership, right?
You only own it 1 week out of the year, but it's still ownership.
Right. That's ownership, right?
Yeah. All right. So that concludes chapter 7.